Joseph,
Yes, sir.
Joseph, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, I think you
Yeah.
can hear me. I think so.
Ah, okay. Yes, I can
Okay,
hear you.
perfect. Yeah, I think you're gonna have a few people done a split.
Hmm.
I've
Hmm.
done a little split. So, what I can say now, you can start the session with a recap, um,
Mm,
as
mm,
other people join. But I want to
mm.
start the record so that I go and attend to the data science students.
That is fine. That's perfect. Yeah.
And in.
Okay, no problem. No problem at all. All right. Just some thumbs up if I'm audible to Benson Coney. Welcome, by the way. Okay, okay. All right, all right. Very audible. All right. Gonna share my screen. I'll also be on campus tomorrow for the folks who are going to be on campus. I may try to figure out a way to, because I know also not all people come to the on-campus sessions, and so I'll probably figure out some way to maybe have an online link. I'm not sure. I'm thinking about that. But all right, so let me just share this and do the recap from last session. Okay, so da-da, da, share. I'm going to share my entire screen. Me. Okay, it's a bunch of stuff, but it's fine. Share screen one, share. Okay, so this here is screen one. Thumbs up if you can see the screen. Anyone can do that. Benson or Coney and or Madid thumbs. Okay, all right, all right, all right, all right. All right, so first of all, let me pull up the notes that I've been taking. Okay, these notes are available here. Let me just paste this first in the chat. Also in the WhatsApp group, if you were there, uh, I made a reference to the checklist we're going to do today, and also the notes from the past session as well. Uh, I shared it there, but let me also share it here as well. So let me just open this. You may see my screen flickering. That's fine. That's just because I'm opening tabs as well. Let me bring this here. There it is. Okay. Voila. So let me go here, refresh a bit, copy this. Yep, this is speak. Yep, that's right. Let me go to the chat and paste this in there. Okay, so I'm going to term this notes for your notes for the session. So last session. Okay, hit enter. Okay, so I've just shared a link in the chat where you can, if you do click it, you'll come to this here checklist. This is for you to follow along. If you're the read ahead kind of person, you can go do that. And actually, I had just edited them. So let me commit these changes to the notes and upload them as well. So you can see we haven't started the recap yet. I just want to commit this change. I say add code for information. Commit. sync. Okay, so now if you go to the web page for the notes and refresh, you'll now have everything I have right now. All right, I see Ariho in here, Madit. Welcome. All right, so let me just recap what we did last week. Okay, in the last week. So we created well, first of all, what we're trying to do is we're trying to create an application, right? From scratch. And to do that, we've been, installing some stuff on our machines. We've also been, just setting up and writing some code. In the chat, if this is your first session ever, I mean for web, you can type 1 in the chat just in case there are any new folks. So I'm aware of that. Okay, but so far, we created a GitHub repository, and I'm going to pull up mine, the one that I have. So this is let me go to my account. Okay, a GitHub repository. The idea being that, when you follow along, whether it's in the, in the video that will be shared, or even the videos that have already been shared, you can follow along and have this as part of your own repository, right? Where you can, create the application on your side as well, right? So you have a product to show. First time, oh, I see. Okay, Madid, this is your first time. Okay. There's definitely a lot to catch up on. Let's see, Madid, are you able to make it physically tomorrow at Cavendish? Just if that's true for you.
I'm not currently in Kampala.
Okay, gotcha. Are you her first time too? All right, that's fine. Well, it's just that there's a bunch to catch up on. Maybe I could arrange like an out of session thing for the new folks. I'll think about that. Okay. So we created a repository where we're going to keep working on this application over the sessions, right? And the application we're doing is a note-taking application, which will hold encrypted notes for us. Okay. If I'm to pull up let me see. Here, we looked at this here diagram, right, of the flow of what kind of we're looking for. These are low fidelity sketches, which means they're not overly designed, but they put the point across. Okay. For those who are new, and also if you've been around and you still have questions at any point, even in the recap, just raise your hand, type it in the chat. Just do anything. I don't mind being interrupted for stuff like that. Okay. Actually, I like being interrupted, so be sure to interrupt me. Yeah, so this is kind of what we're building towards. We also saw that we don't have sign up and log in the way you'd usually do in an application. These screens will come later. And so last session, we were trying to get this at least up, from scratch, from no code to a user interface on the web page. Right. Now we didn't have a chance to get to this screen, which is what we're going to do in this session, but we created a repository here, and yeah, as you can see, the last thing that we did was to try and make the home page appear as the sketches. This was last week, right? And also, so the progress that we made, we deployed this. We deployed this on Vercel, okay? Some people may say it's too early to deploy the application when it's not even working necessarily, but this is on Vercel right here, okay? And we're just gonna keep adding more things, changing more things, and this is also gonna be, updating as we push the updates, okay? If this is the part where I'm gonna take a poll, if you would like us to go over how deployment even happened, how we got the application from our computer to the web. If you want us to do that again, as part of the recap, let me know. Type a 1 in the chat. If you want to see the deployment again, type a 1 in the chat. Okay. Otherwise, if I see no ones, I may not cover this the way it happened. Okay. Those who are here, if you want the deployment, type a 1 in the chat. Okay. Of course, Ariho has typed a 1 because you knew. So that makes sense. Anyone else wanna back Ariho up in the chat? Type a 1. We just need like 2 or 3, and then it will happen. Okay, as that. Okay, all right. Madit, of course. Okay. And so yeah, so we did that, and we started the project from scratch via the week 1 notes actually. So we had week 1 notes, project set up from scratch. We created the repository. Okay. There's an important note here that we didn't cover in that session, although we covered it in the physical session Wednesday, which is if you are following along and you're in Windows and you're using PowerShell, some things may not have worked out for you, right? And that's probably because of the way that your PowerShell tries to be careful about running things, right? And so you have to explicitly tell it it's okay to run scripts, these little mini programs. It's okay to do that. And then, yeah, I didn't cover this in the last session, but evidently a bunch of people had issues with that. So make sure to set this, to use this command in your PowerShell in order to make installation and running of things a little bit smoother. Okay. Let's see. Okay, I'm going to go through the recap, and then we're going to go through the deployment, how that happened as the last part. What did we do? Yes, we set up a bunch of software, okay, because all projects have a setup step. We installed Node on our computer to help us to run JavaScript on our machine. We installed PNPM, and we said that PNPM was a package manager that's going to allow us to include packages that other people have created to help us start on our own project. All right, so we installed that as well via this. We haven't installed Python yet. Okay, so that's kind of a teaser. And then in order to write our code, typically you'd use an IDE or a code editor with extra features that are useful for developers. And I'm using Visual Studio Code. Okay, you can use whichever one you want. But yeah, this is the one I'm using. And then we set up the front-end project from scratch. We entered this command in our terminal. And doing that kind of gave us starter files, right? That we didn't make ourselves, but to serve as a foundation for creating the project. When we ran this in our terminal, well, at least on my side, this is what I got. You asked some few questions, for example, which framework are you using? We chose React. What's the project name? We said frontend. Do you have any tools that you want to add as part of this project? We said yes, ESLint. Would you like to initialize a Git repository? No, because we were already inside it. And then, we were asked to kind of verify that this was the setup that our project was going to take based on the answers we gave up here. And so we said yes, and then installation began. Okay, because we already installed this stuff up here, everything went just fine, at least for me. And then we added a Tailwind for writing CSS. Okay, this is how we're writing CSS in this project. Okay, we're going to use Tailwind. We are using Tailwind. And then we installed some plugins. Actually, let me just make sure this is also installed for me. For those of us who are new, when I say terminal, this is what I mean. It's a program that is available on your machine that allows you to interact with your computer. Okay, and we just happen to be using it to install things. Let me see. I just want to make sure I'm in the correct branch. Okay, I'm in the pre-session for week 3. I'm going to switch back to main, okay, because this contains the code where we left off. If you did the Git session, then you're familiar with what a branch is. Let me see. So I'm going to say switch. I'm going to switch back to main. Okay, done. And now let me stop this server. This was from when I was testing the stuff for this session. Okay, switch back to main. And let me go into the front end directory using CD. Again, for those of you who are new, this is the equivalent of clicking a folder. Okay, everything you can do on your computer via the graphical user interface, you can do it via the terminal. Okay, and the reason I came here was to make sure that I actually had this installed. Let me copy this, because we did this last session, but I'm actually not sure. So I'm using pnpm. Okay. Unprepared dependencies. Don't worry about this. We'll actually look at this later. Okay, so I didn't have it installed. Anyway, so we did that. Okay, and then we added some settings via some files on our project. And then we added a Tailwind CSS. There's a lot of projects set up here, right? Do you have this extension? Do you have this thing and this thing and this thing? We haven't even started the actual writing the code, right? It's just setting up for the code to work. That's what all this is for. I'll fix the picture that's supposed to be here. And then we actually started writing the code. Which doesn't seem like much happened, but if you were there in that session, a lot happened. And so let me see. Okay, let me untick this. I started writing the code. Let me open the code as it is right now. These are the notes that I've been telling you are available for you to go look at. And then let me go here. Okay. So this here is Visual Studio Code. For those of you who are new, it just happens to be what I'm using. And we just use it to go inside of files and type some stuff that makes things happen. In other words, we use it for programming. I do have a, an AI chat here. I'm going to close it though. Okay, that was from earlier. And then I'm also gonna, don't mind about this part. What's your cycle bin? Okay. So this was the code that we had. We're now back to wherever we were in the session. And actually, let me run the application on my computer. Okay, so this is just on the computer. And to do that, we said pnpm run dev. We'll do that for you. You may also use pnpm dev. Okay, and now this gives us a URL, which I can go to via any browser in my computer, for example. Let me do it here. I'm gonna paste and go. And yeah, and so this is the state of the application right now. This is where we left it off in the last session. Okay. I will mention, because some people had issues with this in the physical session. Some people already had programs running on this port, other programs that were not related to this project. And so when they attempted to do what I just did, copy the link and go to a browser, they were seeing other things. Why? Because there was some other program that was already running on this port. So they were seeing the output of that program as opposed to the output of our program, right? And so just in case this is you, for example, if you have some other, I don't know, like a PHP, something running on this port, and you want to change the port that our project runs on, all you have to do, I'm going to Control C, is to, okay, let me clear the screen, Control L. I believe -- port, And let me try 3001. Okay, and there you go. So now the server is running on, the front end server is running on port 3001. Okay, yeah, so, just in case you're having problems with port 3000, you can change the port. It's fine. But I'm going to stick to the default port that the computer chooses, which is 3000, and here we are. Now, are there any questions so far? Even from folks who are new, you definitely have a question or something. I should mention that if you are new and you maybe have an idea of HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, which are the languages that we're going to use when we're creating our web applications, understand that we are writing those things, but we're doing that a little bit differently than you would in like an introduction class or a class that's going over fundamentals, right? So we're not writing, I mean, you will see things that look like HTML, that look like CSS, and that look like JavaScript. But I just want you to know that we are using a framework, okay, which changes the way you think about the project, okay? So yeah, so just in case you're new and you're like, wait, this is not how I remember writing web applications, know that we're doing it a little bit differently. We're using a framework and we're using a React. Okay. Yeah, and so this was the project. Okay. I've kind of ignored going into the details of which file was changed when, how was the code written, because there's going to be a shared video. Okay. It's going to be a shared video on that. And so you'll be able to follow along literally second by second. Okay. So that's kind of why I'm hand waving this away for now. But it's fine because we're still going to go into the code anyway today. All right. Yeah. So that's where, so how did we take this project? First of all, the way the project got created is through all these steps. And then, but that was on the computer. This is currently running on my computer. Yes, it's open in a browser, but I can see localhost up here. So it's not on the internet, right? And so how did we get it there? This is actually the last thing that we did in the session. And so let me just go over that again, and then we'll continue to develop in this session as well. For those who are here, who are not new, is everything fine so far, or is there any question that you have or anything you want me to repeat just now? I'll wait for 30 seconds. Or, well, okay, maybe 10 seconds for questions to materialize before I go into how we hosted this or how we deployed this.
Yeah,
Okay.
did you say that there is a video for the first lesson that you had? Or?
A great question. So, okay, there is a video. I think this is our third session now. There's definitely, if you're part of the WhatsApp group, the internship WhatsApp group, there are videos posted. I think the one for last session is about to be posted for last week, or maybe has been posted. In the WhatsApp group, that's where the links are shared. Okay, the YouTube links. So yes, the videos do exist for the first session that we had, and the session we had last week, I think, is about to be shared. Okay, so you can look out for those in the WhatsApp group. Yeah, in fact, not just for this session, all the sessions that we've had have YouTube links that have been shared so far. Okay. Yeah. So yeah, so look out in the WhatsApp group for that, especially for last week's. Okay. All right, so how do we deploy this? Now, because I already deployed it, what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete my deployment. Deployment is the same thing as hosting, kind of. Okay, for the sake of this, just imagine that when I say hosting, when I say deployment, I kind of mean the same thing, which is taking a project from your local computer and uploading it, or putting it on the internet for the world to be able to access it. Okay. This was actually a take-home assignment. I don't know if you were following along last week, you should have already deployed your own version of this application. Okay, and actually, hands up or some kind of emoji if you did this. If you did not, then we're gonna go through it again anyway. Okay. Okay. Now, of course, Benson did it. Yeah. So, okay, so let's just take a step back here. First of all, this is being deployed on Vercel. Vercel is a popular platform for deploying front ends, like the one that we're building right now, especially with these frameworks and everything. So Vercel is one that we used. Now, if I go on here, we can see that this is the deployed application. Now I'm going to delete it, right? Just so I can show you how we did that from scratch. So I'm going to click into here. Yes, this assumes that you in fact have a Vercel account. Okay, it assumes you have a Vercel account. Let me see. It assumes you have a Vercel account. So create that first. Creating a Vercel account is typical to how you would create any other online account, right? Although I would say to create it with your GitHub account. Okay. Let me see. Let me see if I can. Let me log out of here. Can I log out of here? Yes. Let me just log out of Vercel for a second. So when you click sign up here, see how you have options? You can continue with email. I would recommend continuing with GitHub, which also assumes you already have a GitHub account. The reason I recommend doing this is because later you will have to connect your GitHub account anyway, to find those projects that you want to deploy. Okay, so I'm just going to log in again. Continue with GitHub. Okay, it has already identified that I'm signed in as this somewhere in this browser. Let me continue. Of course. I do have I can continue with the passkey. Is that okay? I have to 1 second. Let me just move this away from the screen. I'm just entering the password to my password manager, and I don't want to inadvertently show what it is, because then I have to go through the trouble of changing it. Let's see. Yeah. Yes, it is a long one, which is why I don't want to change it. But okay, so I'm gonna come back in here. Oh, did it already identify that key thing? All right. Continue with passkey. I'm just gonna click there. So I'm back to this account, okay? And I got out just to show you that you can sign up with your GitHub account. Okay, for those who are new, the GitHub sessions also have recorded sessions on YouTube, recorded videos. Okay, so that will cover how to create that account. Okay, and a bunch of other things. Okay, so I'm gonna click here. This is Enkscribe. This is the name that I chose for this application. This one is from when I was practicing before, but this is the one we're interested in. I'm gonna click it, and I believe I can go down here to settings, probably. Yeah, and I can delete the project right now. Okay. Subscribe. Delete my project. It's telling me to type that. Deleting cannot be undone. That's fine, because actually we're going to start from scratch. Okay, so now there is no more project on the web. Actually, I wonder, let's see. Oh, I should have opened it and seen what would have happened if I refreshed, but there is no longer a project on the web. Okay, so how did we get it here? Well, first things first, to make sure that in this case we have the project on your GitHub account. This is just mine. It's called AnkScribe. It's over here. Okay. And yeah, this is the code from last week, as you can see. And so I would advise, having your GitHub and Vercel in the same browser because it makes it easy to connect those things. Okay, since you're already logged in into GitHub in one tab or something like this. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to add new here, add new project. Okay, it's going to cook for a second. All right, now let me see. Let me do something. Let me undo something so I can do it again. Okay, because when you do this, you're not going to have something. So okay, passkey. Use a passkey. Thank you. Let me just come in here and say something like this. Save. Okay, so just imagine none of that happened. And so let me just go one step back. Add new project. And here you will see, if you've added projects in the past, you will see them here. But we don't have the AnkScribe project, okay? Because I just removed it. When you're doing this the first time, you will not have it listed here. You may not actually have anything listed here, which is fine. And so I'm going to, missing Git repository. Yes, indeed, we're missing one, which is the AnkScribe one over here. Remember, this is a different one. Actually, you know what? It's fine. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to adjust GitHub app repositories. I'm going to click that. And then now it is possible that if you don't have any projects here, that you will have, a simpler way to do that. But for right now, the options that I have is I can add a new Git repository /project by clicking adjust GitHub app permissions. And then I'm going to find my account, okay, which is this account that I want. I'm going to scroll down and I'm going to say, now I have this set so that Vercel can't see every single repository that I have on my GitHub, and just, it's always nice to give access only when it's necessary, right? And so it can only see select repositories, right? And so what I'm going to, right now it can see these two repositories, which we saw in the Vercel dashboard. Those are the two that I had. And I'm going to click here under select repositories, and I'm going to type Ank. Okay. This part always does that. I'm going to type AnkScribe, and here it is. So I click that. It is now listed in the repositories. I'm going to save that. When I do that, okay, it says the window will close automatically. Is that true? Okay, probably. Oh, yeah, it was true. And so now I have the third project here. Okay, and then I'm going to import it. I'm going to import it here. And now we get to, specify a couple of things here. Okay, so project name, AnkScribe, that's fine. You can call yours whatever you like. I'm just going to leave it as the default. And then here we have application preset. Now, recall that we're using a framework, okay, which is just a way to build our front end, well, actually, our full stack application. But in the front end, it's a way to give us, somewhere to begin, okay? And when we set up the project via, via this command, not this command, via this command, many tools were installed for us, right? To make sure that, we don't have to install them ourselves. Many tools were installed for us, including a tool that that helps us in developing on our local machine. When I say local machine, for those who are new to the kind of the terms, local machine just means your computer, right? Not on the internet. Well, your computer. Okay. When we did that, a bunch of tools were set up for us. One of the tools was Vite. That's VITE. And what Vite does is it just helps us do many things, one of which is to, refresh the browser automatically when you change your code. That the Vite is doing that. Vite also does this thing called building your project. We're going to talk about that in a couple of seconds. But the point of that was that there are very many presets here. Why? Because there are very many ways you can build a front-end application. This is yet another framework called Angular, right? Which is semi-popular, I suppose. And all these other ways to do that. You even have Django in here. That's interesting. Okay, but what I am interested in is Vite. And actually, we can type VITE. So this because our project is using Vite, we're going to tell Vercel, yes, use this setup for Vite for our project as well. Not to be confused with Vite Press, which is something different. We're just using Vite for now. Okay. Root directory. Now, before we enter this, let's take a step back here. Actually, this is part of the recap. Let me go in here. This is week. Okay, let me expand this a little bit. And let me go here. This is the checklist for today. Okay. Yep. So in the recap, we've talked about the GitHub repository, the software and extensions we installed. I've showed you that from last week's checklist. I've explained PNPM as a package manager. And oh yeah, I've talked about the repository again. Let's see. So we're at the deployment part. Okay, so one thing I'm going to call out is this. When we are writing code, let me go, you know what? Let me scoot this over to the side. Let me use this. So this is the code that we have been writing, that we wrote in the last session, okay, which created, let's see, which created this. There's going to be a lot of tabs and windows flying around, okay? And so I'll be sure to call out exactly what's happening. So let me see. Right now I'm looking for where we put the, it's okay. Let me go to my terminal. Let me get this. And you know what? Let me actually dedicate a browser to running this application locally on our machines. Let me use Chrome. Let me use Chrome. Okay. So what I was saying, so this is the application. What I was saying is this is the code that we wrote here. This is the code that we wrote, and we ran the code using this command in order to give us the output that we're seeing in the browser, right? However, when you, this is great, on our machines locally, but when you are kind of packaging your application to be served to other people's browsers, okay, there's some steps you have to do, okay? There's some steps you have to do. One of the steps is this idea called building. Let's see here. Building your project. And what does that mean? Well, I'm going to tell you by showing you. So for now, let me delete this. You see this dist folder? Let me zoom in a little bit. This dist folder, we didn't create this last session. In fact, let me delete this folder. Okay. And then let me do something called building our project, and then I'll tell you what that is. To build the project, I can do that in a separate. Okay, okay. I don't have to stop the front end server from running, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new tab, a new PowerShell tab here, and I'm going to go to the same location. Let me see, CD. Okay, so now I'm in the front end directory, right? Or a folder, that is to say, I'm at the location in my machine that has all of these files that we're seeing here in our code editor. And so just as we saw a command to run this application so we can see it in the browser, there's also another command to build it. Now, I'm first going to tell you the command pnpm build. I'm going to hit enter. And we can see Vite is also doing the building for us, okay? And it's done. It's not particularly a large project, so the building is done. But what just happened, right? Well, I mean, some clues can be got from here. 102 modules were transformed. Okay, transformed how? We'll see. And then probably a bunch of files were generated here. So let's go and have a look at those files in our code editor. Let's see this editor. The dist folder returns. We just deleted it. So this dist folder or directory is the result of building, right? It just happens automatically. And so if I open it, I see a bunch of things. I see some assets here. Okay, there's an interesting CSS file. Okay, so this is where our styles are, but notice something interesting about these files. Let's see, there's a JavaScript one, there's another JavaScript one. So the first thing you'll notice is, well, this isn't readable, at least not to me, a human being, right? I mean, I can recognize words like object, but all the space or all the ways that we've been writing the code where we have tabs, and space and this, even comments that we've been writing, they're all gone. They're all gone from here. Let's see, what else do we have here? We have, oh, excuse me. We have the index.html. Okay, interesting. And then we have a bunch of other things. Let me see. This one is outside. Robots.txt. Okay. Manifest.json. Okay. And then a bunch of logos. These are the logos that were created default for us. Okay. We didn't use these logos. We didn't create these logos. Okay. They were created as part of the initial setup. But yeah, so building takes your application, all the code that we've been writing in these other files, and then it minifies them. Let me see. Here's another interesting term. I'm just going to type it here because there is space right here. It minifies them. And minification, I mean, there's a word mini in here. It takes the code that we've been writing and kind of compacts it, right? It removes all the things that the browser doesn't really care about, like spaces, right? Of course, we, as people writing the code and someone reading your code, maybe in your team, cares that they can read something like this. Let me go to a file here. Maybe let me go to the, right? Like I, as a person, care that there's space in here, right? Because it makes the code easy to scan, right? And I can go and know where to change. But the browser doesn't really need this. In fact, space is not nothing in terms of size, right? The space character, especially if there are many, add size to your files, okay? And so building kind of removes all that. And yes, the code is definitely not readable, but it kind of it's a good thing for the browser because it's the one that has to accept this code. And so it's always a good thing if the size of what is being pushed to the browser is a little bit small, okay? So minification is what happens. The other thing that happens is all of our, let me go to the, okay, probably JavaScript here. All of, the names that we give our variables when we're programming, all that stuff is, it's also compacted, right, into letters like E, right? Because again, characters are not free. They actually take up space. So minification is just an effort to kind of compress things as much as possible so they can be shipped to the browser. I just use the word shipped. Shipped just means taken to, right? Yeah, so that's one thing that building does. And the point is it creates this dist folder. And so knowing that when we're on Vercel, let's see, go back to Vercel here. What was Vercel? It's going to ask us, hold on. Okay, so actually what I was talking about with the whole folder, the dist folder is going to be down here. Right here, root directory is a little bit different. So let me edit this. Root directory says, where are your files? Where are your files for the front end stuff, right? All these files that we've been looking at over here. Vite is just asking, where are they? Where are these files? So it can use them when it's deploying our application. And somewhat nicely, we put this in a folder called frontend. Okay, and so we're going to select that too here. Here, and this frontend folder is in our repository, right? So the folder is right here. So Vite can see it because we gave it access a couple of seconds ago. Okay, I don't need to do anything else here. I'm going to continue. And then, okay, build and output settings. So we just talked about building. What's the build command? The build command is the same command that I used locally, which is pnpm build. Okay, so these can be copied and pasted here. Okay, what is the output directory? In other words, after building, where is the build stuff put? So if I click this here in pencil, we know that it's going to create a dist folder. Okay, and why is this important? Because Vite is going to do everything we just did. Okay, what is the install command? The install command says, you have a bunch of dependencies in your code, a bunch of other people's code that you've pulled in order to help you create your own project. So if I want to install all that stuff, how am I going to do it? Now, when we started in the previous session, the command we used was pnpm install. Okay, and actually, if I do it here, it's not going to do much. Let's see, pnpm install. Okay, yeah, it didn't really do much because pnpm is smart enough to know. It's smart enough to know that we already have the stuff installed, so it kind of skipped a bunch of things. Okay, but this is the install command. Okay, gonna minimize that. We don't have anything environment variables in our code yet, but I mean, this is fine. So I'm gonna click deploy. I'm gonna click deploy, like so. And this is usually the part where either something goes wrong or it doesn't. We'll see. We can also open the logs, by the way. If we like, we can see it's now trying to install the all the dependencies that we have in our project. Okay, there was a little message there about building something, but there you go. And now we get a congratulations message. And indeed, if I click on here, this is the application. Or in fact, I can even send this to anyone in the world. So for example, I'm going to put this in the chat. Let's see. Deployed front end. Deployed front end. Yeah, and there you go. And so, when you're doing your projects and this and that, this is the way you can deploy at least the front end, right? And another bonus is that because we gave Vercel access to our repository, if I refresh this, I notice that the link is now just there. I didn't do this, right? Vercel did that. So if someone's if you're to give someone your project, which is already deployed, you have a link here available already. In case someone is in the repository view, they can just click this and it will show them the same page. Okay, so we deployed our application like that. Now, that means that when we do, the nice thing about Vercel is, let me just go back here. Let me just go backwards. So now we see, let's see, pre-session. Oh, has it not picked that? Let me just refresh that. Yeah, okay, it hadn't picked it yet. So this is the project. Now, Vercel is watching our repository right now. And when we push, if we make changes, which we're going to do in this session, and we push them, Vercel is going to automatically build the new code that we push, right? And so that's a way that you can, kind of continuously update your website or web application front end without having to set it up from scratch again. So Vercel will handle that for us in the background, the more we push and commit and all that stuff. Okay. Any questions on the deployment or any interesting facts that I haven't covered that some of you already know in here? Okay. If all good, meaning if this shape, for those of you who are new, this is a lot of information. And yes, there has been a lot of information kind of delivered in the past sessions as well. But the important thing, especially for your first ever session, is to recognize the shape of the thing, right? Rather than the details. So for example, if you walk away from here knowing that, oh, if I have a front end, I can deploy it or I can host it on Vercel. That's a good takeaway that you can, have without necessarily remembering everything that we just did. Okay, so yeah, remember the shapes of things, the general ideas of things, and then they will sink in the more that you practice. Okay, yeah. So that's how we deployed this. The take-home assignment for is to try to come to the next session when you already have a deployment, okay? Because just to be in the loop of things as well. All right, so that's how we did that in the last session. Any last chance for questions on what we've said so far here? Last chance for questions as I find things. Okay. Okay. All right, seeing no questions, so let's see what we're going to do today. Let me open this again. All right. Okay, uncheck these earlier. Okay, so we've done that. So we literally going to just continue where we left off. Okay. Okay, so we started. Okay, I have a bad habit of not remembering when time disappears. So we started at midday. Okay. This is usually 3 hours, 3.5 even, right? 3.5 hours. So we have 2.5 hours left, which sounds like a lot of time, but actually isn't. Because time has a way of just disappearing under our feet. But we're going to try and get through as much of this checklist as possible. If we get even here, that would be great. Or even here as well. That'd be great. Okay. So moving on to this week, let's do a little bit of a cleanup on our interface here. I mean, the world has its eyes on it now. We may as well just make things a little bit tidy, because I mean, frankly, not so good. And so let's do a little bit of cleanup. Now, I need to remember to not confuse myself. This is the deployed application. In fact, I'm going to close this tab because I usually get confused between what is the local one and what is the deployed one. So I'm gonna close this too. Actually, no, I'm gonna leave this open. I'm gonna leave that open probably. Okay, so this is our application as it is locally. And the hint is in localhost here. Okay. And what are we gonna do today? Well, we're just gonna continue and I'm gonna open this. Do a little bit of a checklist. All right, let's clean things up a little bit. In order to do this, I will have to have a bunch of things open at the same time because I want you to see the changes here as we change the code, right? And remember, Vite is the one kind of helping us see the changes as we change the code. So I'm going to open, this part is always a bit tricky as I need you to see the parts of the browser and parts of the code at the same time. I'm going to do this. Let me shift this down a little bit. Okay, let me put that in like this. This organization is not going to stay this way as we go along. I know that this window is going to move a lot anyway, but let's just make an effort right now to make sure. Okay, cool. So what are some of the cleanups we're going to do? Okay. Make the font on the button normal. That's this button. Let's see. That is remove the bolding. Okay, remember we're using Tailwind, so a lot of this is going to be, getting familiar with Tailwind as well. So font normal. First thing I need to know is where is this button? By the way, there are 2 of them. Here we go. By the way, there are, nope, not in agents. There are 2 of these buttons right now. We're gonna also see how to make that work a little bit better. But for right now, one of the things to get comfortable with is knowing where things are, right? So where is this add note button? Now, of course, I know that it's here. Let's see. Oh, actually, no, this is the wrong one. This is this one, okay? The other one is, all right, so how would you find things? You can go to the see here, to the file view on the, let's see, left-hand side. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to search for the words add note, right? Because presumably this text is somewhere in our project. All right, this is one place where it is, but we can also find the other place where it is, and we will find the other button. I'm going to Control P on because I'm on Windows, and I'm going to search for text. So I'm going to do the percentage sign. I'm going to say add note exactly as it is, and we see two entries. One of them is from index.tsx, but the other one's from __ root.tsx. And indeed, there we go. There's our button. Okay. So what are we going to do here? Let's see. Change the font to normal. In other words, not bolded. That's fine. We can do that. I can say text. Sorry, font normal. And if we look up here, let me see. There you go. Font has become normal. Okay. That's one thing to do. If you have any question at any of these points, let me know. Make the top section light gray, right? This top section is kind of dark. Let's make it gray 200. Gray 200 is a color that is available via Tailwind. Okay, it has some preset colors. Let's see. Okay, I have to pull this page up a bunch of times. Tailwind colors. Colors. Yeah, there's an entire chart of colors that you can use for your projects. And so the grays over here, let's see. Grays over here, and they go from 50, which is the lightest one, to 950, which is the darkest one. So gray 50 is lighter than gray 400, which is lighter than gray 700, right? And so, just want to make that, let me just close this, because I know I'm going to get confused. So I want to make this lighter. So let's do that. Let me go here. Gray 200, okay, fine. So we're going to find this element and change its color in our code. Luckily for me, I'm already where the element is. And it is this div over here. It's right now it's gray 500. Let's make that 200. I'm going to save, and voila, it has changed. Now, of course, contrast is just gone south. Luckily for us, we have another checklist. Adjust Joseph's font to a darker gray, maybe gray 950. Okay. Because Joseph's font is right here. How do we do this? Let's see. Right now, the text is white because because the parent, okay, the thing that contains this paragraph, which has the text we're interested in, right now the text is white because the child inherited this style from the parent. Okay, so we could change it up here to, what was it? Gray 950. We could do that. Excuse me. Or we could do it specifically on the child as well. Okay. So this is just HTML. This definitely is just HTML. And we're going to add some CSS in here via Tailwind. To do that, do a space, start typing class name. My editor finished that thought for me. And then I'm going to say text. I want the text to be, what was it? Gray 950. Okay. Gray 950. I'm going to save that, and indeed up here, the text is changed. Okay. Again, if you have any questions, just let me know. Boom, done. Add a 1 pixel wide border around the add note buttons. Because they're two, right? Which, by the way, we're shortly going to see a better way to do this. But if I really wanted to adjust these buttons at the same time, first I'd have to do it here. And then I'd have to go to index.tsx where the other button is, this one, and do everything there as well. Okay, so for the sake of showing you just how not such a good idea that is, I'm going to do that. Okay, so actually, I'm going to do the bad idea first. And so it's only bad because we can do better. The bad idea is, well, I've changed the styling of this button over here. And I just want to make sure that this other button also gets the same styling. Let me minimize this. And so typically what that means, oh, you know what? Maybe side by side is better. Yeah, that's way better. So typically, okay, I've done it for this button. Now let me go and do it for this button. Okay, but then I have to remember what I did, right? So for example, I have to remember, oh, for this button, which how do you know this is the button? Well, I can comment out the button temporarily, Control/. And because I have autosave on my editor, you can see the button's gone. So it's definitely this one. Let me uncomment it, Control/ again. And so I can say, oh yeah, I remember what I did last time. I did font normal. Okay, cool. So now both buttons are there. Oh, but now I get a an underline in my editor. Why? Because we installed all those extensions in the first session. It's saying, look, I have two contradicting styles on this specific button. In one instance, right now, I just said, make the font normal. But before, there's a font bold over here. Now, it turns out the normal wins because it came after, but this is not always the case. But you know, my editor's like, okay, you have two contradicting styles. If you can, please pick one. And so I'm going to remove the bold here. We didn't have to do it for the other button because we didn't have that bold in that button. And this is already the problem of copying and pasting things is already showing itself. First, I have to go in here and do it also in there. But also, these two things are going to drift. These two buttons are going to drift. You know, we may have one thing on one button and not the other button unintentionally. Okay, you can do that intentionally, but that was unintentional. Okay, what else are we going to do? We're going to, one pixel wide border around the add note buttons and give the border an amber 500 color. Okay, so this button here, just because, you know, the way the gray is and the yellow is, it's kind of clashing with my eyes personally. So I just want to add a little separation there. So 1 pixel wide border on the button. There's still two. So let me do it on the top one here. How do we add a border? Well, with Tailwind, I'm going to click anywhere. I'm going to say, first of all, that there is a border. Okay, that's the first thing I'm going to say. The next thing I'm going to say is the color of this border. Border, amber, was it 500? And let's see. Oh, also I did it on the other button. Okay, it's fine. So let me go here. Where's the border? I'm going to copy this. Again, we're going to see a better way to do this button thing. I'm going to paste it there. And now the top button should now have a slight border. There. Hard to tell if you weren't already looking, but there is a border around that as well. Okay. Add large drop shadows on the buttons to give them raised off the surface look. Okay. Drop shadow. So I'm going to start here. This is for sure the top one, right? Yes. And I'm going to say shadow. How big was this shadow? Let's see. A large. Okay. Shadow -LG. Again, this is all Tailwind. And voila, see there's like a little shadow now under that, right? Of course, if I wanted to, I'd have to do it over here too. Just to drive the point home, shadow, LG. And there's a shadow. Let's see. Okay, adjust spacing between you have notes and text. Oh, sorry, the you have note text and the add button. Okay, so these are just too close to each other. Okay, not very good design. And so, let's see. I want to adjust that. Okay, first I have to find where it is. Right now, let's see. Okay, no, this is the top one, I think. No, actually, we're in the right place, right? You have no notes is over here, and therefore, this is where we are. So how do I add a space? Well, I'm going to continue the setup from last time. I'm just going to say in the parent of both of these children. This is the idea of parent and children, right? You can think of it like if I'm wrapping something inside of something, The thing that is wrapped is the child of the thing that is wrapping. So for example, this h1 is inside of this div. So h1 is the direct child of this parent. Of this div, and this counts as the parent. So in the parent of both of these children, I'm going to say, by the way, I just need a gap of like, I don't know, 4 or something. And now if you look here, indeed, okay, let's make it 8. There you go. So now we have our space. Okay, let's go next. Boom, adjust the text in, yes. Adjust the text on the browser tab and change it from the default front end to the name of the application. So see up here in the actual tab in the browser, it says front end over here. The reason it says that is because that's the name that we gave it when we were initializing or starting up the setup of this project. And so it's about time that maybe we change that. So let's change that to Inkscribe. Or Inkscribe is actually how I would say this. Okay, and where do we do that? Well, we have an index.html. It's a good thing I reminded myself. We have an index.html. Not to be confused with index.tsx. These are different files. Okay, so let me open the file explorer. I could do that, or because there are so many files, and I guarantee I'm going to be scrolling. I would have found it already, but just like we searched for text, let's search for a file. I'm going to Control P, and this time I don't want to do the percent sign because I'm not looking for text. I'm looking for a file, and I'm just going to start typing index. And indeed, well, there are 2 index.htmls. One of them is in the dist folder, right? When we built it, this is not the one we're interested in. We're interested in the one that we have in our code here at the front end. Okay. And so, excuse me, the title right here. This is what controls what's showing in the tab here. I want to call that Enk scribe. I save, and immediately that is changed up there. Okay, any questions so far? Any questions? Let me look at the chat. Let me look at the chat. Okay, I don't see any questions in the chat. Any questions formed in the minds of the mentees? Yeah. Okay, I'll check back. I'll check back occasionally. So, if you want to take time to form the question, you can still form it. Also, I'm confused. Also counts as a question, because then you'll tell me where you're confused about, and I'll try to repeat it. Okay. All right. So we did that. Now what are we going to do next? Give our app a favicon in the browser tab. Okay. A favicon is this tiny graphic over here in the tab right here, right? So let me go to Vercel and see. Oh, they must have a favicon, or even GitHub. See how GitHub here, this is their favicon, right? Vercel has a different favicon over here. So yeah, we can also give our own app a favicon. And actually, in preparation for this, I did a thing where I tried to give a logo here. Oh, but see, how's this going to open? Let me open with, let me open it in a browser, actually. Let me open in a browser. Sure, let me open. So this is the icon. It's very abstract, okay? It's very non-literal. I could explain it, but, it's fine. It is what it is. There's a pencil here and writing inside of blackness, just to, suggest like encryption or something, like you can't see what's in here. Okay, but this is the icon that we're going to use in a bunch of places, actually. It is an SVG, which means that this graphic is being described by actual mathematics, right? It's not just a picture. Actually, let me, hold on. Which is something that you learned in the UI UX session one at a time. But I can literally, let's see, can I zoom in here? Yeah, I can zoom in infinitely without it being, see, is that's still sharp as a knife right there? There's no, yeah, so let me close that. But what I'm looking for is it doesn't get fuzzy, right? You can keep zooming and zooming and zooming and zooming. Whatever size this thing is, it will just maintain its appearance. Okay, so SVG, scalable vector graphic. Okay, so what were we supposed to do? we're supposed to, okay, make this into the SVG. Where do we do that? It's in the, we're going to use the link tag in the head of index.html. Okay, so I'm going to open index.html over here. And there is no link tag here. We're going to put this inside of the head head tag here. I'm going to do, actually, you know what? Let me just copy it. Let me just copy this, and I'll tell you what it means after it is pasted. Okay. Let me remove this. And let me just save, let's see here. Okay. So I'm saving and it's not, let me try and restart the front-end server. Let's see. So it's over here. A lot of things have happened because every time something happens, there's some text that is put here. So I have to Control C and let me see. pnpm run dev. Enter. Oh, let's see. Link rel icon type as image. I get it. Hold on. The icon, yeah. Image, yeah. Logo, SVG. Oh, the reason nothing's changing is because I have made a promise in my code that you're going to find this logo in this location in our application, but it's not there. Okay, so where is slash? Where is this slash? There is a folder called public in here. Let's see, right here, public, which everything here is made public. Okay, publicly accessible. And I have said if something's in public, you start with slash. So slash means inside of public, right? If you don't give any more context here, slash means it's going to look in the public folder. And as we can see in here, I don't have anything like logo.svg. And so, of course, it's not getting it. So let me put that logo, which was on the desktop, in the public folder. And just drag that over there. Okay. And let me see, when I refresh this, oh, there you go. It is now changed to the icon right there. All right, so we're done with that. Make sure the files are where you say they're going to be. So voila, voila. Oh, so what happened was we went here and we said, okay, look, we're going to use the link attribute, link tag. We're going to use the link tag inside of the head tag. Yes, that means link is a child of head, right? Because link is inside of there. And we're going to say this thing, which is located here, href is just kind of the location of it. How is it related to this? Oh, it's an icon. Okay, there are some other rel things that you can use that are predefined, but this one is an icon. And the type of it is image/svg plus XML. This is just how you say that it's an XML. That it's an SVG file. If it was a PNG, this type would be different. Okay, and there's probably a list of all these types that you can have over in MDN, Mozilla documentation, okay, which you can go and look at. But basically, this is what that means. Why is this in head and not in body? Because, well, if it were in body, then it would show in the body. But head is where you put other information that is not visible in the body, but is important for the browser to know about. Okay, and so, yes. So we've done that. Let me just peek at the chat for any questions. We've done that. Oh, yes. How about this here, manifest.json file? Again, this is one of those files that was created for us automatically when we set up our project. And so we're going to change the information there. Okay, so public/manifest.json. I'm going to go public, yes, manifest.json is right here. So this was the information that was pre-filled. Let's start by actually saying what our app name is, Ancscribe, name, Ancscribe. Okay, this manifest.json file, the information in here is useful for things like progressive web apps, for example. There's some apps, as we saw in the first session, actually, that there's some apps that, you go to the web and you get an install button, which is going to install the application on your device, right? But not through an app store or anything like that, just directly through the web. Okay, so it's packaged differently. And this information is going to be useful in that context and probably other contexts as well. So we just want to make sure that, it says what we wanted to say in terms of our application, as opposed to whatever default was generated for us. And then we have a bunch of icons here. Okay. And there are very many indeed, but and we should probably have like a PNG there as well. But just because an SVG is what we have right now, I'm going to remove all these. Remember, because I said the SVG was described by math, so it can be any size whatsoever. Okay. And what's the SRC, the location SRC? Oh, so okay, so I've removed the other sizes and I only have one left because I'm going to use the SVG that I just put in here, this SVG over here. And the way I'm going to do that is, okay, yes, /logo.svg. Remember, slash is going to look in public, and the file itself is called logo.svg. So I'm going to change that to logo.svg. Okay, sizes, I don't need to specify because this SVG can expand and contract. So I think is it any? Yes, it's any, right? Instead of saying a specific size, I'm just going to say any size. Type, we said was image, actually, no, it's not image X icon, it's SVG. So it's this image / SVG plus XML, the same type that we mentioned here over in index.html. Okay, I can do that. Okay, start URL is fine. I don't think we're gonna, oh, there's a purpose here that wasn't there. Okay, I'm gonna add this here. I could probably get away with not having that as well. I put a comma on there because actually we are inside of, I'm going to say an object for now, where we're giving some information, and each new information that we give has to be separated by a comma. Okay, so I put a comma in here before I did the any. I don't need to put a comma here because there's nothing else happening inside of here. I'm going to save it. Let's see, what else are we supposed to do? Okay, that's pretty much done. Okay. And then we also probably want to tell our index file about this manifest file. Okay, so we can grab this information that's in here as well. Okay, so we can do that. Link to the manifest in the head of index.html too. Okay, so we're going to use the link tag as well. Same tag that we used to set the favicon. Let's see, copy and go to index.html. Excuse me, I'm going to, okay, okay, let me put it here. Probably doesn't matter where you put this. But yes, this just says, you see, we have a different relationship. The first relationship was of the type icon. This one is a manifest. Okay, again, these are predefined. You can find a list somewhere of these. And href, just meaning the location of this so-called manifest that I've said exists, is over here. Okay, so /manifest.json means in the public folder, you will find a file called manifest.json, which exists. I will be saying JSON and JSON interchangeably. Okay, but yes, let's see. Here we go. We've linked that too. So now our index.html, which is kind of the entry point from the browser's perspective, also has this information. Okay, I'm gonna save that. And you know what? We've done so many things. This is a great time to commit, okay, because a lot has happened. Let's see. Okay, let's see. So Mugisha in the chat asked, oh, just now. Okay, I happened to see this. What is the meaning of JSON or JSON or however you say it, and what role does it play? Great question. So JSON itself stands for, I mean, what it stands for is not the explanation, but JSON stands for, let's see, do I remember this? JavaScript Object Notation, which doesn't do anything to, let's see, to tell us what that is, but that's where the JSON comes in. Okay, and what it is, it's a way to package information. Okay, just like you have a .txt file that can have information in it, or a .whatever file that has information. .json is first of all, it's a type of file, okay, .json, and it is a signal to, it has become kind of standard now in the web development world, and so JSON, it says, okay, first of all, how do you know it says JSON type file? Okay, it probably has open brackets and square brackets. And in there, there's just information that is important, okay? This JSON file just so happens to have information related to the manifest. However, some other JSON file will have other information as well, okay? It's just a way to package information that is kind of standardized in the web dev world, certainly, okay? And we'll actually see JSON files again when we get to, well, not really files, but this idea of JSON. Okay, again, when we get to APIs later. But yeah, it's just a way, okay, here JSON is the name of the type of the file, but it's also the name of the structure that the information is laid out, right? So the JSON, the .json file indicates that in here information has been packaged in a JSON shape or a JSON way, okay? And it's just a file with information in it that you can send to many places on the web. That's all. That's all that is. It's just another type of file with a different way of displaying the information within it. Okay. Let's see, Mugisha, I don't know if you're satisfied with that explanation. Yeah. Yeah, so just like any other file in existence, someone made this up and everyone was like, yeah, let's use that. JSON was one of them. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome. All right. So yeah, let's commit that. Let's commit. For those new who are new, we're just using something called Git to keep track of all the changes that we have. This is just standard when you're doing any kind of software development. And we already set Git up in previous sessions. And so we've changed a bunch of files. And indeed, Visual Studio Code has recognized that, yes, by the way, you changed your index.html. There's new stuff in here. And you can click into it to see what was new. Well, what was new is, oh, you added, oh yeah, we added Xscript here. It was front end before. We removed it. That's the red is like removed things, right? So on the left, we removed something on this line. And yes, it's true. We removed front end. And in its place, we put Xscript, okay? Let me make sure to not change anything. And then, yeah, we changed a bunch of stuff as well. Green are additions, okay? At least that's how I understand this color thing. We changed the logo. Oh, we introduced a logo, which wasn't there before. So that's another change, but it's untracked, meaning this is a new file. The ones that have M are modified files. So they were there before and they've just changed, okay? And so, okay, let's commit these changes and push them. I'm going to do it from the VS Code source control tab right here, okay? And I'm going to first, I want to add all these changes at the same time. The reason I want to do that is because, well, they're kind of related to each other, right? But also I'm going to make a commit message that makes that clear what changed as well. Okay, so I'm comfortable making all these changes at once. So I'm gonna click the plus sign, which now brings those files to stage changes. I'm gonna do a message here. Now I left myself a note here. Adjust UI for a better look, add logo, favicon, and tab name. It is possible that if this was someone else, they would have maybe, when they adjusted the UI, they would have committed. When they added the logo, they would have committed. When they added the favicon, they would have committed. Yeah, so different people commit in different frequencies. I just thought, okay, this is a nice place to commit, seeing as a bunch of these changes have happened. So I'm gonna copy this. And I'm gonna paste that here in the message section. If I want to add an extended description, I can do so. I can hit enter once, enter twice. I have to have a space in there. And I can say, I can just give more information, right? So you can think of this as a summary. And if you really want to add more information, then you can do it here. So for example, I can say what? The UI has been polished, for example, has been polished. In terms of, colors and buttons, for example, I can say a logo, an SVG logo has been added. Let's see, what else? Favicon. Okay, I don't need to expand on that. Tab name, yeah, it's okay. But also manifest file. Manifest file was changed to be project specific, maybe, example. So this is how you do an extended description. You don't have to do bullet points like I've done. This is just how I do it. Yeah, but actually no, I'm not going to give any recommendations and what's good to write here. This is up to you. Okay, I'm going to commit those and I'm going to sync. I'm going to click the sync changes, which is going to take everything that we've done. Let's see. Okay, are the new people going to have the chance where you can build a project from scratch? Yeah, okay, so what I'm thinking, yeah, so yes, because remember, last week's session was recorded, okay? Now it takes a while to actually get the videos on YouTube and do thumbnails and all that kind of stuff. So I don't believe it's been posted yet, but literally there is close to 3 hours of us doing it from scratch, okay, which you can watch. Or if enough new people in the WhatsApp chat say, okay, we need maybe like a different session, and like a a little session for us, I'd be happy to find some time and do that too within this week. So just let me know. But just know the recording will be made available of the last session where we literally did exactly what you're asking for here. Okay, so yes, chances exist. One of them is the recorded lecture, for the recorded session, last session. But the other one is, okay, if you want a separate session, I can find time and do that. Let me know if you would want that as well. Okay, yeah. So if you want that, I can I could probably find some time and then just post a link to like another WebEx session where we just do this from scratch as well. Yeah. So yeah, opportunities exist. Opportunities exist. All right. I'm gonna assume you were satisfied by that answer. And then, okay. So let's continue. Let's solve this button problem that we had. Remember the problem was, and okay, some people may not see this as a problem right now, but the problem was, if you recall a couple of minutes ago, let me go in here. Or was that index.tsx and root.tsx? We had two buttons. In fact, let me pull up the UI on the side. The side is better. We had two buttons here. And when I wanted to make these buttons, really are different buttons. By different, I mean there was code to put this button on the UI, but there was different code to put this button on the UI, right? Because I literally copied and pasted this and this. And now if I want to change this, if I want to make these styles match, I have to go change here first and change here second, right? And then there's some things that would be here and then not here, etc., etc. We can solve all that. We can solve all that because you can imagine having many, not even just buttons, but other things where you want multiple of them, but you're resorting to copying and pasting, and that's going to get annoying really quickly, and it's going to slow you down. And so what we can do is we can say, wouldn't it be great if we had one button, and then when we wanted to use it anywhere, we kind of just like not copy and paste it, but like import it, kind of, be like, I want to use that. You remember that button we built? Yeah, use that here. and also here, and also here, in such a way that if I change something, the other one also changes, right? There really is just one button, kind of one source of truth for what this button is. And we can just kind of use it in other locations as well, without having to copy and paste manually like we've done. Okay, that is what this component is. Okay, so we're going to make this button a reusable component. Components are very, very common things, especially as your application gets large and you're kind of reusing some things in other pages and et cetera, et cetera. You know, putting them into a component, especially if they would have been copied and pasted multiple times, is a good idea, right? If I had this button only once somewhere in my application, I wouldn't need to make this a component, right? Because I'm not really going to use it again, right? But the moment duplication is introduced, then, you know, trying to think about making something a component is a good idea. Now, the thing is, duplication isn't bad, okay? There's a lot of, sometimes you hear advice like, do not repeat yourself, dry, right? Dry, we've all heard dry. We've heard dry, right? Do not repeat yourself, they say. And there's a valid reason for this, right? We've seen a reason just a couple of minutes ago where I had to change this and change that. But also, only stop repeating yourself when it's become clearly a nuisance. Okay, like if you're building and you're like, it's okay for me to copy just this one time. It's okay, it's fine. But the moment you be like, actually it's not a good idea. Okay, then you can do dry. Okay, don't do dry immediately. Okay, because the risk that you run is kind of overly optimizing things. Okay, even when you don't need to, right? So, you know, there's a balance to be struck here. Okay, with dry. There's for those who missed it, I kind of do not repeat yourself. I've actually never typed this out. Repeat yourself. Yeah, so use your own judgment. Okay. Sometimes it's very obvious that you need to not do this. Okay, like we're gonna do with components. So components are a way to not repeat ourselves. Okay. Not because there's a law that says do not repeat yourself. It's not even a law. It's just a suggestion that you hear a lot, but because it's actually going to help us. Okay, it's actually going to help us in the long run. Okay, so how do we make this button into a component that we can just share? Well, let's see. Let's start by making a new. Let's start by organizing ourselves first. Okay, so src components. I'm going to create a new folder under the source folder called components, which makes sense because that's where I want my components to be. Okay, so I'm gonna do this, src. By the way, I don't know if anyone had this question, but why don't we put that in public, right? Like, is it possible for me to have put this component, let's see. Let me look at the chat here. Let's see. Plus, do you mind giving us those instructions as well so that we test ourselves? Yes. Oh, well, no, I do not mind. And yes, I posted let me do that again. So this checklist is over here. I posted that at the beginning of the session. Let me just do that for you. Okay, let me see. Notes, yep. I'll do it for you again. Notes for this and other sessions. Okay, so I'm just replying to someone in the chat who said they wanted this checklist. Displaying it there. All right, so yes, Mugisha, there's a link there, which if you go to it, will take you here. Hopefully it will take you here. Let's see. Let me just paste the link it'll take you here. Because the notes and the checklists, I am also putting them on GitHub. The repository is public for now, right? So, you know, this is 2. If you want the ones for last week, thank you once again, you're fine. If you want the ones for last week, go one step back, right? So I'm going to go to here, for example. Oh, there you go. I would week one. Week one, there was no checklist in week one. It was mostly a whiteboard session. And anyway, there's no way to view the whiteboards as we drew them directly in GitHub. Okay, I'll think about something like, yeah, this is how the whiteboard shows up. So I'll think about a way to make this, better. But if you want the one for week two, I wonder what we did in week two. You can click there. And here it is, actually. I should have called this out. You have projects set up from scratch.md, which you can go to. And indeed, you will see all the checklist stuff that we have. I'll fix the images because I moved them and I forgot to update that. But yeah, everything we did last week is here. So if you have this plus the video, I mean, you're well on your way, right? Okay. Let me go back. Oh, actually, let me close this. Okay, components. So I'm going to go to, oh, right. Why not put it in public? Well, in the SRC folder, when we build our application, it's going to build whatever was in SRC. Yes, it will pick up some stuff from public, but usually your project code goes in SRC, okay? And remember, SRC was created for us when we initialized or started the project, okay? When we set it up. So I'll put it in SRC. And also, I don't really want the like it's not a typical thing to put this in in public or anywhere else. So I'm going to put it in SRC. I'm going to create a new folder. I'm going to call it components. Okay. Could I have called this something else? Absolutely. However, because we like thinking about other people too, when you have, and yourself in the past, when you have other people in your team, if they see a components folder, it's likely that they know what's going to be there. Components, right? So, folder structure naming is also a communication tool, by the way, right? So yeah, just make it easy for people to find your things, especially if it's like something a lot of people do, right? If a lot of people call their folder components, call yours components, not because, not because there's some crowd mentality, but just to make everyone comfortable and immediately understanding, oh, this is a components folder. I've seen this somewhere else, right? So components, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to, let's see the checklist here. Okay, we're done with that. Inside the components folder, I'm going to create a new file called addNoteButton.tsx. Let's create that. New file, add note button.tsx. Could I have named this something else? Absolutely. I just decided to name the thing what it was. And so this is the add note button component, right? Okay. Okay. All right. Now, inside the add note button.tsx file, which by the way, if you're wondering why this is TSX, the TS is for TypeScript, which we haven't really seen how that comes into play explicitly. But okay, if you recall, for those who are not here, let's see. Where do I put this? Let's go here, probably. When we were setting up our front end, okay, you know what? Let me create just a new note here. I probably won't use this, but when you're creating, we said, hey, we're going to use React. Okay, we're going to use React for the front end. We're going to use React. But also we want to use TypeScript, which is JavaScript, but it's a little bit stricter on, that you should define the shape of your data beforehand, right? That just helps. The TypeScript is JavaScript, but typed. What is a type? Okay, yeah, okay. Let's take this opportunity because we're going to see it in Python as well when you go to the backend. Okay, so let's say I have, this is going to be a very, very impromptu explanation. I wasn't even planning to do this, but let's say somewhere in our code we have x is equal, x stores the value 5, right? This is a very arbitrary example, but let's just say somewhere we've said x stores the value 5. And then later, somewhere in our code, we intentionally or not store the word, let's see, spaceship inside of the same X. There's some languages that are okay with this, right? In one instance, you said this was going to store a number, and then you changed your mind later and you said this was going to store a set of characters. Okay, some languages don't really care. Python is one of them, right? Python won't yell at you that you did this, okay? And in fact, you may have intended to do this. However, when your code base, aka your program, the one you're developing, gets really large and there's, a lot of pages, a lot of functions and all that stuff, you may accidentally change the data type that is stored somewhere and not even know it. And the way you will know it is your users are going to tell you, I have an error on my screen and I don't know why it's there. And then you're going to, eventually go and find, oh yeah, I mistakenly, and it doesn't have to be something this drastic. Like, okay, obviously here, a number is not the same as a collection of characters, but it may be something subtle, which matters, okay? And so therefore, some languages are typed. I don't think JavaScript is typed by default. I think TypeScript is a flavor of JavaScript that introduces this idea of that, if you say something is going to store something or some data is going to have a certain shape and you change it later, even though it was intentional, it's not going to allow you to do that without yelling at you, okay? It's for our own good, okay? Because, and so some languages require you to explicitly say, this is an integer, okay? This x is going to store 5 and it's going to be this x is going to store an integer. And so you can't do this. Literally, you cannot do this later, okay? So yeah, TypeScript, just JavaScript with types. So React plus TypeScript. So that's where the TS is coming from in TSX. The X here is saying this is, let's see. Okay, basically what it's saying, imagine it like saying this file has something to do with UI, okay? It has some UI thing that it's returning or something. And that, that's not really the explanation, but that's why it's TSX, okay? And yes, you will find some other TSX files that seem like they don't have anything to do with UI, but so yeah, that's why it's TSX. A bit of a tangent. And so in here, we were told to, let's see, let me go back here. I see what happened. Let me just open this again. Okay. Excuse me. Let's see. Yeah, inside the addNoteButton.tsx file, create a function component. Here's that word again. That returns the button as a UI. I mean, when I say returns the button as a UI, it's not as if we've not been doing it. We have been doing it. That's why it shows up in the browser. It was already UI. So this may have been a bit redundant. But okay, let's add a function that returns the button, and then let's see how we can use that to avoid this duplication. Now, let's see. Okay, you know what? Let me save the export for now. I'm going to say const, standing for constant. I'm going to give this function a name. The name is going to coincidentally also be the same name as the file. It doesn't have to be. I'm going to say add note button, okay, is equal to. I'm going to open some braces over here and then not do anything with them. And then I'm going to do this here arrow. And then I'm going to open curly braces. This is one way in which to write a function. I'm using arrow function. I'm writing this via arrow function notation. There are other ways to write functions in JavaScript / TypeScript, but this is the one that I'm going to show you today because we're going to see the same kind of shape somewhere else later. Okay, and I just want to cement it in your mind that when you see something like this, it's probably a function. Okay, so I'm electing to use this arrow function here. This part has to be like this. There may or may not be things in these brackets. Okay, right now we don't require anything here. Okay, and the braces are the actual thing that we're doing inside of this function. Okay, so the function is called add note button. The const is going to be there because let's see what happens if it's not there. Yeah, okay. So a const is a way of just saying this exists, and also it cannot be changed. that means something different. Don't worry about const for now. That's a whole other rabbit hole. But just know, const. Okay, it's good to add a const in front of things that we are creating. Okay, in this case, and then this is just a notation that is a signal to TypeScript or JavaScript that this is a function. Okay, and in here we're going to do things. What things are we going to do? We're going to return something. Okay, how do you know when to use curly braces and when to use just the regular brackets? By doing this a couple of times, right? Because I used arrow functions, I know I have to do it like this, and it's going to stay like this for a while. Okay, so this is one of those don't worry about it moments. But what are we returning? We want to return the button. Okay, so how do we do that? Well, we have the button already in both places. Let me see. Let me get this one. Let me get this one. The button already exists. It was already UI, which is why it showed on our page. But what I can do is I can just copy this button as it is. Actually, you know what? Let me not copy. Let me cut it. So let me go sideways, like so. You go sideways like so. Except I meant, yeah, okay. So I'm going to, let me get some space horizontally. Like so. Okay. This is always tricky. So first of all, where are we here? This is the button. Oh, this is the top button over here, right? Yeah. So if I cut it out, just the button part. In fact, let me add a comment up here. Can hit enter, and I'm going to say control / to add a comment. Control / will add a comment correctly in whatever language you're using. If I was in a Python file, whatever happened on this line would have been different. Okay, so rather than me remembering how to do it in TSX, I let the editor do it for me. I just need to remember control / The / is the one under the question mark on most keyboards. And I'm going to say button was here. Okay, this the reason I'm saying this is because this is going to be important in a second. But I'm going to take this button exactly the way it was, and I'm going to cut it. Okay, Control X. Because I have autosave on my browser, okay, it has disappeared from there. I'm going to go to the add button, function, and I'm going to paste the button exactly as it was. Okay, let me save. Okay, for our fellow human beings, I'm going to select all this, and I'm going to push this back to the left because it has kind of over indented. So I'm going to shift tab, 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 I think once more. Yeah. All right. And okay, I now claim that by doing a return of the exact button, I can now use the button somewhere else, right? And when I want to use the button, I no longer have to say this, I just have to say the function. And the function will give me the button because the function's job is to return the button, okay? There's one more thing that's missing though, which is if I'm going to use or import this button, if I'm going to import this button by importing this here function, I have to export it out of here in this file, okay? You can't import something that wasn't exported. Okay, so I'm going to add export at the beginning to say, I'm going to import this somewhere else. Now, if I don't actually import this somewhere else, nothing bad is going to happen. It's just that this is a signal that, by the way, I'm going to use this somewhere else when I import this function. Okay, so that's why we have an export there for the purposes of importing. Okay, I'm going to save this. Now, are there any questions here before we add even more, before even more things happen here? Any questions, especially, obviously the new folks, you have a bunch of questions about a bunch of things, which is okay. I'm curious if those who have been here have questions at this point. Okay. Okay, I'm not seeing any visual indication or anything that there's a question. So All right, I'll continue, but I'll still glance at the chat. Okay, so here I have, what have we done? We've created a function. This is a component. Let's see, component function here. Let's see, a function component. That's the term to use. A function component. What that means, it is a function which, okay, I don't know how to explain this without also using the word component, but it kind of makes sense. The shape of the thing makes sense. Okay, so this is a function component that we've just created, and its job is to return the button. To return to who or to whom? To whom are we returning this button? Well, to whomever asks for it. Okay, so let's ask for this button in here where we removed it. Remember, we removed it from here? The button was here. Okay, there you go. And so how do I use the button here? I really want to put it back, but this time it's by using this function. So it's exported. Okay, so let me import. Imports are usually at the top of the file. Okay, over here. I'm just going to put it here. It probably doesn't matter if I put it down here or anything. Sometimes it does. In this case, it won't, I don't think. So I'm going to import. What am I importing? Add. Oh, and look at that. Because the editor is smart. Also, notice what has happened in the background. There are a bunch of errors, okay, because I've set up my VS Code to auto-save. But when it auto-saved, because I was in the middle of typing something, stuff isn't working. So that's why you see this. But it's okay. It will get cleared up when we finish this thought. So I want to import, because I exported, this add note button. Okay. Import add note button from, okay, this probably needs some kind of explanation. Okay, so we know this part, components / add button. That is reflecting the folder structure here. Components, add note button. Well, right now I said, I made it seem as if this add note button is referring to the file. Let's see, is that true? Let's see. Okay, let me just add a massive X at the top of this, just to confirm something. Okay. Yeah. Sorry. Thanks. Okay. All right. Let me undo all that. I just wanted to check my sanity a little bit. Let me put that back. Okay. So what this says is, well, let's read it in full. Import add note button from here. Now, this add note button on this side of the from is the file, right? Remember we named the file add note button? So if I was to rename this file add note button XY and hit save. Oh, okay. The editor is kind enough to change that here. Okay, so this second part is the location of the file in which the thing we're importing is. Okay, so let me just, in this case, it just so happened that the actual function, which is this part in these curly braces, the actual function has had the same name as the file name, which is fine. That's why they were both of them were said add note button. Going to hit save again, and yes, it's self-corrected. Okay. Now there's this peculiar looking hashtag over here. What's that about? Because we can kind of follow components add note button. Okay, that makes sense. But what's this? Right? It turns out that this, and actually, you could also do this, the @ sign. You'll probably encounter the @ sign more than you encounter the hash sign. But these are shortcuts that are referencing the src folder, right? So I could have also said src. Actually, I couldn't have said that because there's something else in front. But what you need to know is it was hash. It can also be @. I will change the hashes to ats because I just know ats appear the most. @ says src. Okay, this is, so when in your mind, imagine this is the src folder. And then we go into the components folder inside of the src, and then that's where you get the add button file, in which there is an add button function. Yeah, so this is again one of those knowing where your files are. In this case, I just typed add button and everything was completed for me. Okay, but that's what the @ sign is. And if you want to, there's actually, this doesn't come from nowhere. Nothing comes from nowhere. Okay, and so there in our project, there's actually a rule that tells TypeScript, the thing that's kind of compiling our code, that every time you see an @ just kind of replace that with src. There is actually a line of code in there. One place you can find it is in this, I think, tsconfig.json. Yeah, there you go. In the configuration for TypeScript, tsconfig, configuration is just some rules to tell how something behaves. For those of you who are new, it's just for kind of jargon to mean that. Config is how, is how that's said. So tsconfig, which is configuration for TypeScript, in here there is a paths option. And yes, this is JSON as well. You see, you got some curly braces up here, and curly braces down here. Very, very high indication that this is the format of JSON. And then you have some kind of string, and then content, kind of a key, and there's the value of that. But anyway, here we have a paths. And in here, we're saying, by the way, when you see a hashtag followed by a /, please replace that with dot, meaning the project, src, meaning this folder. Okay, and then whatever follows. Yeah, so this is where that is defined here, which is also why I can use the @ sign instead, because it has the same rule. Okay, yeah, so this is where that is defined, and that is why this looks like this. Okay, so @ just means src, well, front end src components there. Any questions about this import here? Okay, I don't see any visual or audio, or I don't see any audio visual indicators that there is any question. Okay, so we've imported, let's not lose track here. We've imported the add note button, and we have to use it here. Let me split the screen again. Split the screen. Let me give us some space. So how do we use this? Well, I can go here, watching this space as well, and go here and I can open a bracket. Okay, now my editor is nice enough to give me that as an option, but let me see. Add note button, and then I close like that. And voila, there you have the button again. So now, okay, in your mind, just imagine that where this is, all this happened, right? And so kind of in your mind, that's the button, right? It's kind of a roundabout way of getting the button. But what that helps us do is now when I want to, replace this button too, I can do the same thing. So I'm going to go to index.tsx, and here's the button, or here's the button, which I can now safely, let me just leave a comment just so we know. I'm not going to actually leave this comment there. Button was here. Okay. And then let me see. Okay. Some audience participation here. You can do it in the chat too. I want to use this component that we defined using this function over here as well. So what should I do up here? What's the first thing here before I can use it? The hint is in the previous line. So what should I do here? Is there anyone brave enough to type in the chat? We're looking for one word here. Let's see. This is also just to check if at least a couple of people are following. So I want to use just like in root.tsx, which remember is where we use this this here component, right? We did an import. Okay, yes, Abel says, yeah, I have to import. I have to import what? I have to import this before I can use it. Because remember, I said export. This is the only reason why this is working, is because we said export before. So I'm going to import, add. My editor is going to finish for me, so I'm going to accept the help. And then down here, I'm going to do the exact same thing that we did last time. Open an angular bracket, or angle bracket, and I'm going to accept help from my editor as well, and close that as well. Ah, okay, but something interesting has happened. Yes, we did get the button, but hold on a second. If it's the same button, then why is it different? Like you can see, this one text is smaller, right? Yeah, the text is smaller. I mean, the shadow exists, but what gives here? Okay, well, what gives is this. Sometimes there are some properties which, when a parent is styled with that thing, the child inherits that automatically. Okay, so for example, this button over here, okay, they're all the same button. So now I have to go back to the parent here. I have to go back. Let's see. Yeah. No, actually, it was index. It was right here. This is okay. This is the bottom button, but let me go to the top one, which is here. Yeah, it's over here. Joseph's Vault. Yep. This button exists here. That's right. But why is this text different? Because the parent, and yes, this is still the parent, even if this is not a button anymore and it's some kind of component, this is still the parent. Why? Because this is inside of here. The parent said text to Excel. Okay, so the children are going to inherit that automatically. Okay, and that's why this text is large, and this isn't, because this button is here. No, it's here. And there's nothing here. You may say, well, there's a text for Excel. That is true, but that's only on the H1, right? It's not on the parent, right? So it's this to Excel here that is being transmitted to this button at the top, which, because this is in a different context of a parent, this is not getting. So for consistency, what we can do is we can say, I mean, we can, if we remove this, there's going to be an issue where this Joseph's Vault is also going to reduce, right? Because it's also inheriting the 2XL. So if we remove it, see, yes, indeed, this will now be the same button, but also Joseph's Vault has ended. Okay, that's fine. So maybe we should put the text to Excel directly on the paragraph of Joseph's Vault. Let's do that. Just so we remove that text to Excel. Okay, so that is back. But you know what? I actually like when the text was bigger. So where do we do this? You know what? It's very fortunate for us that this button is now a component. So if in theory, it feels like if I change it here, it's going to change in these two buttons at the same time. So let's see. So if I do a text, remember, by here I mean in the button that is the component itself that we are importing in both of these places. Okay, so now I'm going to add text to Excel here, anywhere. I'm clicking anywhere, text to Excel, and indeed they both change, right? So now we have a shareable component. If I did the background, if I change my mind about the background, I can, I can change it over here. Maybe let me say 8. This is going to be horrible, but let me say that. And they both change. Okay. So that is the power of components. Okay. So yes, we have now, yeah, this is the same button. That's great. So now if we want to change it, we just have to make the change over there. Put that to the side again. Okay. And so we've done that as well. Let me check on the time. It's 4:12. Voila. So we created the function component, which was just the function. Okay. Now I believe function components have to start with capital letters. Is that true? Hold on. I don't think I'm going to be yelled at here, but probably. Let's see. Okay, there is a what's what I'm looking for? I can't find it right now, but there's kind of a recommendation maybe that if your function components start with a capital letter. I think that's just a React thing. Okay. And that is also important for Vite to be able to refresh the page as well. Sometimes if it doesn't start with that, you'll get some kind of error. But yeah, that's not a mistake. Okay. All right, so we've done that. We now know how to do components. Use the newly created component back into two files that previously had the duplicated button code. We did that. Move the add node button to the very right. Yes. So for those who are not here, we actually drew some, I may have shown that at the beginning. We drew some sketches, some low fidelity sketches. In other words, they aren't styled the greatest thing of all, with the greatest style of all time, but it's enough to give us an idea of what we want to do. So this add note button, which doesn't even look like this anymore, but that's fine, is on the very right at the top here. It's on the very right-hand side. Okay. But in our UI, it's over here. So we want to get this over here. It's not as trivial as it sounds because we only get this over here, but also we don't want to move this. This has to stay in the center. And so the way you do that is I'm just gonna give that to you. Let's see. We open the code here. First of all, we find the thing we're interested in, this button, right? It's now a component, so we're not really interested in the actual component code, but we're still interested in the location of this component now. So that's over. Okay, so I'm going to close this. This is the actual component, which I've just closed. But I'm going to go to here, right? So here, this is the button. This is this one. If I comment it out, indeed, it disappears. So we know it's that one. I want that to go to the right. Now, you may say, well, okay, I have an idea. Why not do it here? Why not do it in the act? Oh, I should mention what just happened. If I want to go to the code of this, I hit on my keyboard, I held down the control button. It's still held down, so now I get this pointer, and then I click. That will transport me to the actual component. You may say, oh, I know. Let's do the change here. Let's move this button to the right. But wait a second, we also have another button connected to that. And if we move this to the right, then this will also probably go, it will be affected somehow, okay? So I want to segregate the change of the moving thing to the right to this alone without actually disturbing the component code itself, because that will affect this button too, okay? So how do I do that? Well, let me wrap this in with a parent of its own and then move the parent. I want to move the parent to the right, and I claim that's going to have the effect of moving the child itself also to the right. Okay, so I'm going to put this in a there is no parent. Well, there is a parent, but that's this parent. I don't want to move this parent to the right because, well, I mean, it stretches across the screen, so that doesn't make much sense. But so I'm going to give yet another parent here. I'm going to say div. That's just a division. I don't actually know what div stands for. Maybe division. But yeah, it's space in the browser. You can think about it like that. Okay, so now I put this button inside of a div. Okay, so now the relationship changes. This component is now a grandchild of this parent over here. Why? Because the immediate child is now here, and then inside of that is this. And I want to move this to the right. Okay, so I'm going to use some Tailwind, class name. The way I'm going to do it is I'm going to kind of pop this button out of where it is, and then I can move it independently of everything else. Okay, I'm going to pop it out of the normal flow by saying this is going to be absolute. Now I've hit enter, and okay, now these things are overlaid on top of each other. I want to move this to, I want to say, I want to give it, I want to move it to the right. And so what I'm going to say is right 10 maybe. What that says is to your right, there should be a gap of 10. Okay, and that's automatically going to follow that rule. It's going to say, okay, first of all, I've removed myself from the normal flow. I don't care what anyone else is doing. And so now I want kind of a space at my right-hand side. And it's going to do that, which is going to have the effect of moving it that way. Okay, so that's how I've done that. Okay. Okay, so that's kind of done. We're going to do a bit of a check though, because, okay, let's see. Let me commit this. Let me commit. Follow the checklist. Move the add button to the very right of the top header section. We've done that. Now we had to introduce a parent. That's true. We had to introduce an extra container. We had to introduce something extra to contain this thing and then move the container, which moved the button. But we achieved the thing anyway, right? Kind of, we had to do another layer, but it's all good. Okay. Now I'm going to commit. Okay. I feel like this is a good place to commit this right now. With this message. Let's see. The message is make add node button a component. Let me see. And make, okay. What have we done? We've made the add button a component. Also move header button to the right. This is a, yeah, it's a bit long, but it's fine. It's okay. I'm going to copy this. I'm going to commit the changes that we've made. To do that, I'm going to go to the source control kind of icon here. I'm going to add the changes that we all have. I want to make them all at once because all these files are connected to this message that I'm going to type. I'm going to click plus. They're now staged changes ready to be committed. So I'm going to do a message over here. I'm going to commit it and we're going to push. Okay, it is 219. That's fine. Okay, done. Now, this entire time we've kind of been ignoring mobile displays. We've been ignoring mobile displays. And you know, so things look decent on the computer. I mean, we can go full screen and everything. But I mean, in this day and age, you better sort out mobile as well. Just make sure your stuff works with mobile and also desktop as well. And so what I'm going to do here, there are a number of ways you could do that. I could literally take this browser window and squish it lengthwise so that it kind of approximates. And so we see the problem now. Kind of approximates a mobile display. That's one way to do it. In fact, you'll see people doing this a lot, kind of just moving their browser like, oh, what about a tablet? What about a... That's what they're doing, is they're checking responsive design. The other way to do it, the other way that I like to do it, is I have an extension over here, which if I click it, gives me a phone. And I can decide which phone it gives me. Or actually not even just phone, what device it gives me. So I'm going to go in here. If I want a computer, I'm going to, let's do a MacBook Air. Okay. Because, you know, we can make wishes. So on a MacBook Air, it would be like this, which makes sense. It would be on a computer. If I want a tablet, let's see, do we have tablets? Yeah, sure. Let's do, yeah, it would be fine on tablet. Would it be fine on a foldable? I don't think so. Yeah, because we haven't, that's totally new. And this is, if you had a foldable device, maybe specifically a Microsoft Surface Duo, this is how you would see the website. Okay. Yeah, okay, so that's interesting. So what is this extension that I use? I like to do this in 11. The extension is, let's see. What's it called? Mobile first. It works better in Chrome, okay? For some reason, Chrome gets all the nice stuff. If you do this on Firefox, because I've tried, some things will not be available. Okay, so it works better with Chrome. Oh, you know what I should have said? I should have said extension. I shouldn't have assumed that the internet would know what I mean if I just did mobile first. But now we have a mobile simulator here, which you can get from the Chrome Web Store. You can also go via here. You will end up in the Chrome Web Store. Obviously, I have this installed, but yes, this is what I'm using, mobile simulator. Okay. All right. And the reason we're checking that is, oh, there's a bit of an issue here. Okay. And so do a responsive design check for mobile. Things may overlap now. Yeah, because the worst thing to happen is your users telling you the thing isn't working before you found that out and had the chance to fix it. And so, yeah, we've done a responsive design check and we've seen that indeed there's overlapping stuff now. Let's fix that. Okay. And there are a number of ways you can fix this. You can get as creative as you want. You can say, okay, hey, maybe let's push this to the right. Perhaps Joseph's vault to the right. Okay, it's probably exit from me. Let's push this to the very right. And that's something you can do actually, if you wanted. The other thing you can do is, maybe let's make this add node button a plus icon, right? That way it's smaller, right? It's smaller. You can kind of imagine a circle with a plus inside it. And okay, that will also change this one, but that's kind of app-like, right? To have an icon like that. But if you really, really want to keep the buttons that says add note, you can also do that and move this instead to the very right, or do something. Or maybe remove the word vault and see if that helps with actually it might. Hold on. Let me just click. Yeah, I mean, if I just said the name of the person without the word vault, that would fix our problems, right? Because then you wouldn't have any overlap because there's nothing to overlap into. But for this one, let me just show you another way you can do this, and also let me introduce you to where you can get icons. So I'm going to open here and open. So I want a plus icon. Oh, maybe I should just do this first. There's a reason we have whiteboards. What I want is, instead of it being like that, I want to have something like this. Let me. Why isn't the dotted is coming from here? Okay. Yeah, I want something. Okay, you know what? Let me do this. Oh, I get it. Actually, no, I don't. Let me maybe. There's a massive rectangle in the background. That's what's preventing me. Okay, let me move that aside for now. So what I want is a button that is a circle, which has a plus sign in it. Let me just do this because I know that I can expand it. Oh, dear Lord. For some reason, the Excalibur UI just isn't playing nice. Maybe let me unlock. Yeah, okay, fine. I'll just grab another one. What I want is this with a plus sign. Hopefully this behaves well. And a plus sign like that. I know this is what I wanted to do. I wanted to make this huge so I could do this. Something like that. That's kind of what we want. Okay. Something like that. Okay. So how do you even start with that? Let's kind of go through that. Where do I find icons? Is a good place to start. Okay. Thankfully, some interesting folks took the time to collect a bunch of React icons. Here. Okay. And okay, the world is our oyster here. You can decide which version of icons you want. If you want the Google ones, if you want Bootstrap ones, if you want actually material design, that's Google. I'm partial to, and so these are just flavors of icons. Maybe the same icon but looks different depending on what you choose here. I'm going to choose Font Awesome 6. Okay, so these are the Font Awesome icons. We're looking for a plus kind of icon. So I could say, let me see, can I say plus here? I could, but then that gives me the plus for every one of these. But I want only the plus from Font Awesome 6. Okay, you know what? I'm going to use a tool that's existed in browsers for forever, which is Control F. And I'm going to say plus. Okay, there are 20 hits though, so I have to kind of go down there. I'm just hitting next. Oh, there we go. Something like, where did it go? Oh, Christ. Okay, go up and down. There it is. This is kind of what I'm looking for. Exactly, actually. So how do I use this in my project? Well, let me see. Do I import? Let's try this import. The kind of the thing we're assuming is I already had these icons installed into my project. Let's see if that's true. So let me just copy this here. This is the import line. Let me go to the actual component here. I'm going to change the actual component here. Okay. Well, I see a visual here. Cannot find the module React icons 6. So I don't have this installed into my project. So let's do that. Let's install that. And if this docs are great, they'll tell me, hold on a second. They'll tell me how to do it. Let me get that. It's probably in the, let me see, do they do it here? No, they don't. Okay. Let me duplicate this page so I don't lose track of those icons. And then I think if I click here, does it tell us where to? Oh, there you go. Installation. For a standard modern project, which we have, because we use standard and modern tools, we have here pnpm install React icons. Oh, sorry, npm install. And okay, I said we're using pnpm, so how is this going to change? Well, I'm going to go to some terminal, make sure that I'm in the front end location. I'm going to paste this. The way I've done that is I've hit shift and I've right clicked, and I'm just going to add a P in front there. This should work. Okay. This should work. Let's see. Enter. And it's now pulling in a lot of icons. However, just because we're pulling in, okay, let me fix this unmet peer dependency thing, because it's come up more than once. So I have a dependency. Okay, first of all, React icons was installed. We can see added 1, but this keeps showing up. So let's just fix that. So it turns out I have a dependency, in other words, some kind of code or package that is not playing well with some other code, okay, concerning ESLint, which is the one that, well, a lint or something, is it style or something like that? Yeah, but it's not working. And so, you know what? I can just install the version that it wants. So it needs ESLint 10.0.0, but it found 9.39. So it's fine. Let's just fix that. This is not related to icons at all. This is like something else. I'm going to say pnpm install. I'm going to hit enter. And we should be good. It will probably say some other thing in the middle there. Don't worry about the red. Okay, so we're fine now. We're fine now. So we've installed, remember we installed icons with this. We just added a P at the beginning and we're fine. I just attempted to install it again, but pnpm is smart enough to know that it already existed. And so we've downloaded and added nothing. Okay, but now if I go here, oh, notice the red underline is gone, okay, from here, which said, you know, we couldn't find the module. The module now exists because we installed it. And now I can use the circle. I can use a circle now. I'll have to do a little bit of conversion here. Let me do this. Let me do that. Pull up the, here. We gotta do the circle, so what can I do? Let's see, right here. We still want it to be inside of a button. Okay. Now let me see, instead of add note, let me just comment that out for a second. And indeed, we see these have collapsed into, things without content. What happens if I do FA circle plus, close it? Okay, we get something, but that's not really what I meant. What I really wanted was, I actually want this to be the orange part, right? And so, let's see, how can we change this? Excuse me. Let's do like this. Okay, first thing I can do is I wanna keep the idea of a button there. It just happens to have a plus in it. And so what I can do is maybe I can make this into, okay, well, let's change this a little bit. Make this into a circle, probably. Let's see. Or better yet, let me do this. This is what it was before. I'm just going to copy this, not because that's the correct thing to do. I just want to, okay, let me comment this out. Effectively, what I've done is I've kept the old stuff here. I'm going to remove it. But for this step, I just want to make sure I don't lose anything. And then I've created a copy, basically. I've created a copy of the button in here, just so I have an escape hatch, right, if something goes wrong. And so I'm going to remove this and put in the circle like we did a couple of seconds ago. Okay. Okay, so this is being imported. So you can bet that somewhere it's being exported, right? The same way that we made our own component. We have components, which are icons in this case, from this library, React icons, and those were exported somewhere else. So that's why we can import that here. Okay, and so let me see. Perhaps let me start by changing the size of this thing actually. Class name, I can still use Tailwind in here. I want the width to be maybe 10. And the height to be 10. Nothing's happened because I have to do width and height. That's definitely a bigger thing. But there's still this stuff outside, which is a result of all this styling that we've had here. So maybe let me remove the background, for example. Actually, hold on. That would mean, hold on, can I just do this? 1 second. Can I literally just copy these styles and put them in here instead? I can, but then, okay, I get it. Let's see, BGM, okay. Let's see. So, okay. Unfortunately, the icon has become the button and we've lost the name. Let me see, text. I make gray. It's kind of impromptu. Okay, right now, okay. Right over text. We don't need a rounding per se anymore. Okay, I'm just gonna remove styles until we end up with the black. Border is fine, cursor pointer is fine, font normal is fine, text style is fine. Rounded full is fine, excuse me. Remove all the color stuff. Remove all the color things. Over. Excuse me. We still have a border there. It's kind of fine. Text items now. Okay, border. Okay, and then remove this. And let me also remove the text stuff as well. Okay. So button here. Have this. It's gonna have this. Okay. But now, unfortunately, let's see. Okay, let's do this. Or should I have just problem solving is happening live now? Because actually you didn't get this far. So you get to see that. Okay, font normal, text. So okay. Try the first approach here. So ignore all this. Maybe the first approach was actually better. Because I can make the icon itself not have anything to do with other styles and style everything around it. Oops, excuse me. Have a circle like we did a couple of seconds ago. Okay, we're on the right track there. All right, you know what, let's just keep this. Let me keep this approach. And make this bigger. Okay, class name width 10. I have to do the height too, so that it does so. And then, okay, what I want to do is probably remove the padding from here. So the button is the parent, the icon is the child, but I want to remove all the space, the extra space around this stuff. And so let me remove the padding. Probably padding is my best shot here. Okay, that has done something. There's probably padding in the X direction. Okay, so that is kind of disappeared. Does it still act as a button? It still does. And then what I'm going to do, just for the sake of kind of making this, is I'm going to, okay, what happens if I say text Text. Let's see, number 300. Notice the text. Okay, I see. So the text has the effect of changing the color of the icon itself, which is kind of not intuitive that you would say text, but that's what it does. Unfortunately, the reason this is not showing through is because the background itself was this color. So maybe let me say number 900. Okay, so we got something there, something like this. So the background has changed, but now we have to change the kind of the hover colors need to change. Okay, so this time when I hover, okay, when I hover, I want it to go, yeah, sure. So when I hover, I want it to go BG, let's say 700. Let me try this. Yeah, okay. When I click, I want it to go, see, click is active. BG, should I keep it 900 as well? All right, something like that. Such that, and the whole point of this was, so in mobile, there's no text, to overlap. Okay, now there's a lot that just happened there, right? Especially with me trying to figure out how to actually get the icon to behave as if it's a button by still keeping the button around it, but then changing the button to conform to the shape of the actual icon, right? So there's a lot of problem solving there, but I think we got there. Any question on what just happened though? Is there any question on this? Surely there must be at least one. Surely there must be at least. I'm not in the habit of calling names, and I know everyone's heart just went a certain way, and so I'm just gonna let you ask the question yourself rather than going something like let's see, Connie, do you have any? Are we all good, Connie? You can do an emoji. Let's see. All right, emoji if we're all still following. At least the shape of the thing, right? Maybe the details got lost a little bit. But those come with practice. If you're following, yeah, okay. Okay, Benson, getting a thumbs up from Benson. Any other person thumbsing up? Let's see. Okay. All right. So we have Narmik also doing that. Okay. So that's fine. Also Alvin. All right, great. So let's commit right here. Now there's probably a better combination of colors to do on this thing to make this thing actually nice. But it's pretty good for now. It's pretty good for now. Okay, so let's commit this, and then let's actually do the thing. Let's see. Go back to our checklist. Okay, so we did that. Checklist, fix the internal layer. Have changed the button to a plus icon. Yep. All right, there you go. Mobile responsiveness, we've done that. We've done explore mobile. The extension was mobile first. Explore tailwind breakpoint. We didn't need to do this today. Okay, we'll probably encounter this later. UI fixes for overflowing text. Is there any weird text behavior right now? There isn't right now, so it's still fine. Okay, cool. So let me not tick that because we didn't cover that. Okay, the actual form. Yeah. Right now, let me make a commit. Let me make a commit over here. So let me do here. Commit with the text. At least the way I did it. Let's see, this commit, what will this commit do? This commit will change the add note button to a plus icon. Okay, now you are relying on the fact that your users will be familiar enough with what plus is. Okay, so someone can argue that the add note with the literally add note in the button was a little bit more accessible because it said what it did. It said what it did. And so that's the decision you're gonna have to make yourself. I think perhaps most people this is a comment I'm making without any data whatsoever, but I feel as if, the plus icon has shown up in so many UIs that it hints that you're adding something. Okay, it hints that you're adding something. So I'm going to trust the kind of familiarity of this. You found this in, a bunch of other apps, and that it communicates that this is something that you can use to add. Okay, so I'm going to make this commit. I'm going to, oh, actually, we did two things. Not only did we add, let's see, change the add button to a plus icon, comma, what else did we do? Add React icons, yeah, to dependencies. Sometimes that will just be typed as deps. Yes, is the dependencies. Fine, let's keep that full for now. Depend. I knew something was weird there. Dependencies. Okay. Let's see, 14, 3:30, I think, right? 3:30? 3:30, 12, 1, 2, 3, 3:30. Okay. So a couple of minutes. We have to still look at some data stuff. I'm gonna do the plus icon. Oh, this is another place we've seen plus. So yeah, that familiarity I was talking about. And then I'm gonna do the message, commit. Okay, push that up to GitHub. Okay, and we're done. Now, what was the point of all this? What was the point of this button? Well, in the last time we were here, I think in the first or second session, what we really wanted to do was to click the button, and remember, this is a note-taking application. Let's not forget that. And when I click the button, this one or that one, I want this form to pop up, okay, where I can actually type my note and save it, okay? And so we need to figure out a way now to make sure that clicking this button somehow knows to open something, right? That's going to allow us to enter our actual note. And we could do that ourselves from scratch, or we could use the fact that some kind people on the internet have taken their time to put together components. Remember components? Reusable things we can reuse throughout our projects, UIs that we can reuse. So people have taken their time to create reusable components that we can use as a foundation for our own applications. Okay, so we're gonna use something here to kind of help us with this idea. But let me check our checklist just to make sure we haven't skipped anything unintentionally. We didn't run into any of these problems, so I'm not going to tick that. Okay, add the form for collecting the actual note data. We're going to use ShadCN. ShadCN is a popular component library. Okay, it has a bunch of very useful things that you can use in your projects. Okay, and I don't mean just like projects you do for yourself. I mean like actual projects with actual users. You can use ShadCN. So let's explore that. And I'm going to do that by clicking here clicking this here link. I control click. Okay, you know what? Let me just fine. I'll just copy and paste it. ShadCN. If you leave this call knowing that ShadCN exists and it's the only thing that you've left with, that's okay still. Okay, let's see. ShadCN exists. So let me pick a browser. And you know what? Maybe let me help my brain out and not have too many options to choose from. Oh, yeah, you know what? Yeah. Let me save myself some cognitive load and just use the same one. All right. Okay, forget the dialogue. Let's go home. Yes, ShadCN. Says ShadCN. You can find a lot of things here, including charts and all manner of component that you would find in an application. In fact, if I go to components, there's a bunch. I can see an accordion, which I've just clicked on that, and I can see the behavior of it. Like this, you can picture this being used in like an FAQ section or something, on a landing page or whatever. And I'm going to go back. Well, let's see, maybe a card. Okay, card is just a card. Okay, this is a card. This card happens to be a login form, for example. Let's see what else. Let me choose one more before we actually go to our thing. Carousels. Oh yeah, carousels. You can imagine pictures here, whatever, and just click that, and yeah, you have some things advancing there. So this component also exists on ShadCN, and a number of so many other things. The one that we're interested in today is the dialogue. Okay, so remember what we're trying to do is try to make it such that if I click on here, something pops up. This is now a plus icon. Something pops up, and the thing that pops up is this form. Okay. Now, of course, the creators of ShadCN had no idea that we today, right, at 2:48 p.m. EAT, would want this exact form. So, of course, the chances that this exact form exists very slim. But we can use ShadCN, a ShadCN component as a base, and then kind of customize it to get what we are looking for. Okay, so I claim that a dialogue is the one that we're going to use. So let's find dialogue. Okay. These are arranged alphabetically, so I can just hit dialogue. Okay, so dialogue works in such a way that you have a button that you click, and this shows up. That is suspiciously the exact behavior we're looking for. Now, of course, the actual form that's popped up here isn't ours. Makes sense, but we can work around that. And so I'm gonna use this dialogue as a starting point. How do I use this dialogue? How do I take this nice here component and use it in my project? Well, the thing with ShadCN is, well, first of all, there's a line right there of how to add it to your project. We're using pnpm, so this is the one we would start with. If you're using npm, use this. If you're using yarn, do this. If you're using bun, do this. Okay. We're using pnpm though. And so actually, you know what? Let me just click this and then paste it into a terminal of ours. So I'm going to go here, make sure you're on the front end. The reason I keep saying make sure you're already in front end is because front end, the folder front end, is the one that contains all our code and all those files that were set up for us that other tools are going to expect to find as well. Okay, so we're going to make sure we're in the front end always, just so if we have some other tool that's trying to do something, the files can be available for them immediately. Okay, that's one reason to be in front end. Okay, and in here, let me just clear the screen, Control L. I'm going to paste this command that we got from ShadCN. Okay, so it's using pnpm to install ShadCN, kind of the latest version of ShadCN, and add a dialogue. Okay, and I'm going to hit enter. Now there's going to be quite a bit to do here, actually. Let me just get this. Let's see, there was a pre-session tab. Spoiler over here. I'm going to put that to the side so it doesn't interfere. Finding the side is another. All right. Now, I probably shouldn't have obstructed this. So let me Control C. For those of you watching the video in the future, what happened was, let me get this again. I hit enter. And okay, I get presented with a bunch of questions. Hey, you need to create a components.json file to add components. Proceed? Yes. Now, wait a second. What does it mean we had to do this to create components? When we did our own component, which was the button, we didn't need to add any of that. Correct. However, this tool has a way that it is set up to work. And so it needs to create its own components.json file for itself. Okay. So I'm going to hit Y. I'm going to tap Y on my, I just hit Y and everything happened. Component library, Radix or base. These are just different. You're probably fine going with the default. I'm going to hit enter. Preset, Nova, Vega. These are different looks. I'm going to go with Nova because it's the default. You're pretty fine doing the default. We're going to customize it anyway, so hit default. Hey, would you like to use TypeScript? Yes. TypeScript is already selected by default. In fact, we are already using TypeScript in our project. So yes, it makes sense for us to do this. How do you navigate these options? Using the arrows on your keyboard. If I want to go left, I hit left, and now it's at no. I hit right, and now it's at yes. I'm going to hit enter. Which style would you like to use? You know what? I'm going to use the default, not to be confused with default, I just mean the default selected one, which is New York. These are again, just different themes, different looks. Gonna hit enter. Which color would you like to use? A lot of questions, eh? I'm just gonna do the default. Interesting question here. Where is your global CSS file? This is a bit of an interesting question because if you've been following, you may remember the claim that we've been making this entire time, that we've been using, the way we've been writing CSS is by doing it directly in the HTML or in the item itself, right? And so that may make you assume that we do not have a CSS file and that everything is just happening here, but that's not the case. And actually, when we created our project, in the first time we started it, there was a CSS file that was created. Okay, and where is that? Well, src, let's see, styles.css. There you go. Now it's very minimal, right? Because most of the CSS we've been writing has been through Tailwind, and we've just been doing it here. So not a lot has happened in this file here, except the importation of Tailwind and some other stuff. Okay, but this is the file that I'm going to count as our global CSS file. In fact, it's the only CSS file that we have. And so the answer to this prompt, okay, is the location to this file. Where is this file located? I'm going to say src. It's in the src directory, and it's called styles.css. So let me do that. Let me just do that. src/styles.css. Okay. And you're going to notice a bunch of things. The reason it's asking is because it wants to add a bunch of styles here. Okay, so that we'll see that happening. Okay, enter. Would you like to use CSS variables for theming? I'll go yes, because it is selected by default. And that is the, I'm not going to say proper way, but it's definitely a preferred way to do it because of all kinds of reasons. I'm going to hit yes. Are you using a custom Tailwind prefix? You know what? We're not. So I'm just going to leave this blank and hit enter. Where is your Tailwind config.js? It's like we're applying for a visa or something. Ask so many questions, but it's fine. It's okay. Where is your Tailwind.config.js located? Okay. Just like it asked for the location of a CSS file. Oh, sorry, up here, and we gave it. It's asking for the location of a Tailwind config.js file. Unfortunately, for this question, we do not have a Tailwind config.json file because we're using Tailwind version 4. Okay, and when you're using Tailwind version 4, it's not like old versions of Tailwind where you had to have a Tailwind config file. So in this one, we actually don't have the answer for this. So you know what? I'm just going to hit enter. Configure the import alias for components. Okay. There is oh, by the way, the gray text is also default stuff. Remember we saw what at means? It means src, right? And so I'm going to keep it this way. Indeed, I wanted to put whatever components it is going to pull in the same component, in this same location, which, by the way, we already have. Remember when we were creating our add node button, we already made a components folder. So it is also going to use it. If we didn't have this, it would have created it, but we had this. So it's going to, whatever it's going to do, it's going to do it in here. Okay. So import alias for components is indeed this. I'm going to hit enter. Are you using React server components? We are not. Okay. We're using React. That is true. We are in fact using components in our code, but we are not using React server component. That's a totally different thing. Okay. All our components right now are on the client or are displayed on the user's browser. There's nothing happening on the server somewhere. Okay, so I'm going to say no to this. I think it was yes by default, but I'm going to say no to this. Hit enter. And yeah, there's a bunch of things happening. Now, watch this styles of CSS file, which it asked us about. And let's see. It's okay, it's still doing its thing. So it's installing dependencies. Okay. I remember dependencies from, was it session 1 or 2? Oh, look at that. So it has added a bunch of things of its own to our project, which is fine. It needs these to for ShadCN needs this for it to work, for even other components that we import in the future. So it's fine. This is not an issue. We didn't write any of this, but it's fine that it's included. In fact, it's helpful. Okay. And so yes, let me expand this. Yeah, it's done. Let's see. It skipped one file because it already existed. Okay, that's fine. And okay, so we have pulled in the dialog. Remember, all this was because of the dialog. Okay, it added ShadCN stuff to our project, and it has pulled in the dialogues as well, the code for the dialog. And indeed, if we go to components, which was a folder that we created for our custom button component, we see a new folder called UI. And this is the one where ShadCN has got the dialog. Okay, so this is the code for the dialog. It also pulled in a button, okay, but we're not going to use this button probably. Okay, but I'll leave it there just not to mess anything up. And let's see, what else? Components.json is the file that it itself created. Seems like to let itself know some information about our project, which is fine. Package.json has also been modified. Package.json is what tells us, everything that we have in our project. Okay, so everything we've been installing can be listed here. In fact, is listed here. Okay, and also this is where you can find the commands that we've been running. pnpm dev, pnpm build, all that stuff is specified over here in package.json. So of course, it has also been updated because we pulled in or we installed a bunch of libraries. Okay, okay, that's cool. So what do we do? Do we do a commit here? I think if it were me, I would have. So it's likely that let me bring the checklist. Where's the checklist? Again. Okay, explore example of ShadCN's dialog. Yep, kind of. Yes, the dialog is not the same as ours because it's a different form, but we'll fix that. Install ShadCN dialog according to the code. We did this already. Make sure inside the front end directory. We saw why. Go through prompts on the screen. We did do all that, those questions. Examine the code to see that there are indeed new files and other content created. We did that. Okay, we'll come back here. Actually, we did visit this. Let me visit it again. This was the example that ShadCN had on its page about the dialogue. And not only is there an example, the nice thing about ShadCN is you can view the code that was responsible for creating this dialogue. Okay, and the code goes something like this, and we'll get back to this here later. But if you're using, for example, vanilla or normal, regular HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, and you're not using a framework, you probably wouldn't be able to use like components like these because many component libraries assume that you are at least using some kind of framework. Okay, and so that's one other advantage of using a framework is you have an ecosystem around them. Okay, but it's perfectly possible and okay to create this from scratch if you're using like JavaScript and HTML plainly, right? Okay. Yeah, so this is the code that we're actually going to manipulate as well for us. But for now, let me just commit. Just commit this here. Okay. We have about, let's see, 3:30. We have about 28 minutes. Okay, let's see what we can get up to in 28 minutes. Let's see, we're going to do a form. Oh, this is going to be its own thing. This could be a session of its own. Doing a form. Think about the flow of data. I really wanted to get here by the end of today. Well, maybe we'll talk about it. Okay. But let me commit with this message. Add ShadCN pre-created files and content for the dialog, etc. Okay, let me copy. Paste it here, or rather, go to the source control. I do in fact want to commit all these files. If I want to commit some files, I would have clicked them individually. But because I know I want them all, I'm just going to click the plus sign up here. And now they've been moved to staged changes, and I'm going to paste the commit message there. Commit and push. Those of you wondering where I'm pushing to, especially if you're new, remember when we started. See, when we started, I showed you that this was the project we created and everything that we've been doing. It says last week, but if I refresh, everything that we've been pushing should now be fine. Oh, one thing to also call out is Vercel. Remember where we deployed our project? Vercel is now building the new version. Okay, because we pushed. Actually, this has been happening every time we push. Vercel is like, oh, okay, there's new code. Let me build a website again. So it's doing that. Okay, that's what it's doing. So if I click here, let's see. If I click here, what do I see? Oh, I see the website. And look at that. The plus buttons that we created, they already exist because Vercel has been building this stuff in the background. Okay, and there have been no errors, and so indeed. So if you shared this with someone, they'd also be able to see the updated buttons over here. Okay, and indeed, it has been building and it has recognized this commit from 1 minute ago, according to it, with the message, and it knows that I'm the one that did it. Okay, cool. So that's something I wanted to call out just because I saw this orange thing here saying pending. If I refresh, it should be not orange anymore, right? Yeah, there's a tick now. Okay, cool. Now let's do this. Let's do this dialogue thing. It's actually gonna take us down another rabbit hole. Before I do that, questions, remarks, statements. Because for the next, let's see. Oh no, I made myself do mental math. 25 minutes. Yeah, for the next 25 minutes, we're gonna do a lot of form things that are going to look very confusing. Okay, so I'm gonna use this opportunity to kind of take a breather and ask if anyone has any question. Should I remove this comment? Okay, looking like no. Looking like no. Thumbs ups if following so far. Okay, yes. Ariho has raised a hand. Was that accidental? Yes, Ariho. Okay. Okay, Ariho, if that was accidental, then do a thumbs up now. Let's see. See if we get the thumbs up there. Or anyone else thumbsing up if we're following? Okay, I know the folks who are already following, so it's fine. Okay, cool. No thumbs up. Okay, yes, of course, Benson. I meant that I'm following. Yeah, Ariho, yeah. I kind of thought that might be accidental. That's a good thing. Okay, it's a good thing you're following because in the next, oh, you know what? Let me put that back because I'll have to commit that change. In the next, 24 minutes, we're gonna do something that should be trivial, but unfortunately isn't in this current web development landscape, which is we're gonna make a form. Okay, we're gonna make a form. Let's see. Now, why are we making a form? Good question. Because remember the dialogue that we had here? Let's see. Okay, mental load again. Where was it? Right here. This dialogue opened up something. The thing it opened up is a form. You interact with forms. Oh, okay, I see a thumbs up from Ariho. Okay. You see forms. The forms exist everywhere on the web that you are typing something in and hitting like a submit or something, or even send. That's a form. Okay, that's a form. Forms are everywhere. When you compose a new email on your Gmail or whichever email provider you like to use, Proton Mail or Hey or whatever. That's a form. Even when you're creating a new repository, by the way. So let's see, this is kind of interesting. I was curious this morning, and yes, it is indeed a form. So if I go to create new repository, yeah, we type some stuff in here and we hit create repository, but that's actually a submit. Is it a submit button? Hold on. You can find out on the internet by inspecting. So let me inspect this. Let's see. Repository span. Okay, there's probably some other things that it does, but what I actually wanted us to see was that if I get this, and maybe hover like here, maybe, or here, probably, or here, maybe. Yeah, there you go. See that form right there? This is a form. Okay. Yeah, so this is actually a form component masquerading as something else, but it's actually a form. Okay, so you see forms every time. Every time you enter data in the website and then have to do something, click, that's probably a form, okay? Yeah, so forms are everywhere. And I think the reason I went on that tangent was because, yes, okay. And building them is because forms are everywhere. Of course, people build them all the time. And, if you're doing a fundamentals class on HTML, creating a form is actually not even that difficult in terms of, how much you have to type. It may be difficult to understand still, that's fine. I'm not saying that because it's fundamentals, it's supposed to be easy. Not really. But in terms of the parts that are moving, if you're doing a fundamentals class in HTML or something, creating that form, not difficult compared to, a form you would find like GitHub's form. Yeah, there's a lot going on in there in GitHub's form when you're creating a repository. Okay. And so luckily, again, there have been people who have been kind enough to say, we see forms all the time, and we know what people do with forms. They want to validate inputs. They want to have the form be conditional. If I click this button, I want you to do something else, and all that kind of stuff. Okay, people have created all kinds of libraries for form creation. React has its own library called React Form embedded inside. However, in this project, at least for me, I'm going to use tan stack forms. Okay, we've already used a bunch of tan stack things already in this project. We started our project with tan stack router, and and we did the thing there. We are going to use tan stack. We're using a tan stack router for our thing. We use tan stack forms again. Okay, so let's see. I'm going to use tan stack forms here. And just because a library exists to create the form and we're not doing it from scratch does not mean that it's going to be easygoing. It's not, because there's a lot of things to do still. Okay, so let me go to the checklist. Go to the checklist. Okay. Okay, and so, maybe let me take this opportunity to talk about what we're going to do in the next session. Or maybe even, so tomorrow I'm going to be available physically online. Perhaps now I know there are folks who are not going to be able to make it physically because, some of them are not even in the city. Some of y'all are not even in the city, as someone mentioned. And so, but I think you'd benefit from that still. So I don't know. I'll try to work out some way of like also doing it online as well as physical. So I'll think around that. I'll think around that, and y'all can join. But basically tomorrow I'm gonna just be at campus, see if anyone has any questions, and maybe go through a bunch of things again. Okay. This is also great because you get to sleep on everything we've done, and those questions are gonna start forming as well. Okay, so let's explore tan stack form. I'm going to click this. It's gonna open yet another page for a library. Okay. Tan stack form. Yes, this is what we're going to be using. You can do all kinds of things with tan stack form. And yes, there is a way that you can use it with React. This is another advantage of using a popular framework. Okay, there are a lot of there's a lot of documentation and ecosystems around that stuff. So if, for example, if you're creating your own library, you better have React support because a bunch of people use React. We're using React right now in our project. Okay, so it's TanStack forum, and there's there's a demo here of some stuff, which is fine. I'm gonna click React. Oh, we were already in React. Okay, gotcha. And I'm gonna go, I think, let's see, where's the installation part? I did it here. Oh, I gotcha. So I'm gonna click here. Form making library that we will use to create our note-taking form, that's right. And all kinds of forms that exist in this application, we'll be using TanStack forms for that. So let me just go to the installation part. And docs installation. Okay, you could have gotten there via, let's see. Get started maybe? Yeah, get started installation. That's how you'd have gotten there. And installation, we indeed have PNPM selected by default. Okay. So a bunch of people are recognizing that PNPM is a little bit more useful in some ways. And so it's a default selection here, for example. I'm gonna copy this. And we're gonna add this as a dependency and packages and stuff to our project. Okay. So I've copied that, and I'm going to go to the terminal. Those who are new, if you're wondering why we're going to the terminal, it's just this is a piece of text, and it's not like I can just paste this and it will create its own folder on the desktop, so I have to do it via the terminal. Okay, so I'm going to click here. PNPM, add TanStack React form. Hit enter. Make sure I'm in the front end, which I am. And it's going to cook for a second, and it's done. Okay, TanStack form has been added to our project. Why does it say added 5 when there's one thing? Probably because TanStack has other dependencies on it. Okay, that also had to be pulled in. But that's fine. So we've created that now. Now let's see. Boom, we've done that. Install unmet dependencies. We don't have unmet dependencies because we sorted that out earlier when we had that one thing that was unmet. Okay, you know what? I'm going to commit this just because a lot. It was just an installation, but it pulled in quite a lot. For example, if I go to the project, I say quite a lot, but some things have changed. So unlike when we added the dialog, the only thing that has changed here is the package.json and and also the lock.yaml, which also has a list. Actually, you know what? Let me open that. Because we didn't look at these files in the other sessions, and I said that we would talk about them as we encountered them. Okay, we've encountered a PNPM lock YAML. And what do we see here? We see something that is similar to package.json in terms of, yes, it is listing our dependencies or the packages that we've used in our project, but there's a lot more information here, like very, very specific information. Okay, so this is, think about it like a more exacting version of package.json. Okay, it still lists dependencies, but it lists a bunch of other things, including versions and who's compatible with whom and that's all happening here. That's why it's long. But good thing is we are not the ones who generate it. In fact, it updates itself, so we don't have to worry about opening this again. But yes, because we installed a new library, package.json was updated over here. And also the PNPM lock was updated even more specifically over there. I'm going to commit this right now with this message. Add TanStack form to dependencies. Yes. Commit. Oh, okay. Now I forgot to first click the changes so they go into stage changes. But no worries. VS Code is asking me, hey, do you want to stage that stuff and commit it automatically? Yes. And then I'm going to do the commit message. Okay, we're done. Okay, now we have, let's see, mental math, 13 minutes. Okay, let's see what we're going to do in 13 minutes. What was the point the entire time? The point was, remember, we got the dialog. Well, we pulled into our project this dialog component, reusable component, from a component library called shadcn. when you click the dialog, a form comes up. Okay, so we are going to have to create this form ourselves. Okay, obviously you have an example form for you, but this is not the same as ours. So we're gonna have to do some. No, ours is. Let's see. I love these screens. Ours is different. Okay, but we know it's a form, and so we're gonna use TanStack forms inside here. TanStack form to create these labels and input boxes and things like that and control them via TanStack form. Yeah, so that was the whole point. That was the whole point. Now you can imagine here it says open dialog, but really on our side, this button is going to be these plus buttons. Okay, and the thing is, we want whichever one we click to open that dialog for taking notes. But this is easy now because we're using components, right? So actually, all we have to do is to find the button in that one place in the component, which is our custom button, and then make that the trigger that's going to open the form, okay? And if I do it in the component, then these two buttons are going to behave the exact same way because they're the same component. Okay, so I should also tell you about Zod. Are we going to use Zod today? I probably won't get time to get into it necessarily. Not to be confused with General Zod, but Zod is, it's for validating data. Okay, it has a bunch of, there are many libraries that we're using, right? Which is a nice thing to notice. Okay, Forms library. This is for validation. Okay, TypeScript first, schema validation. Okay, this is a bunch of words in a line, but we're going to see what that means. You know how when you have like a form and you're like, oh, this passwords don't match, or the password must include this and this and this and this and this. All that is form validation. There's a library for that. Zod, very popular, very trusted for that. Yeah, so there's a library for something you want to do. Okay. Okay, so let's actually try and see if we can, in 10 minutes, get the form. I think in tomorrow's session, it's a physical session. Well, I'll be there physically, probably figure out a way to do online. But we'll probably, I'll answer a bunch of questions that people have about this, and maybe even, do a little thing where we go beyond what we've covered today. So in other words, the rest of the checklist, kind of. Okay. I'll try to have that recorded as well. But also maybe I can just do a WebEx and then, we'll see. For those who won't be physically present, we'll see. But okay, let's do a form. Let's do a form in the time that we have left. Unless there are any questions, I'm keeping an eye on the chat. For the data one, actually, you know what? With 9 minutes, let's talk about data for a second. Because I did promise that in the WhatsApp. So let's do this in preparation for the database part. Okay. So let's talk about data. Okay. We may talk about data for the remaining 9 minutes. Yeah. Okay. Well, let's talk about data for the remaining 9 minutes. Okay. So I've changed my mind. Instead of doing form, which was going to be a lot of time, let's talk about data, because we can always do the form in the next session as well. So what's actually happening? Let's take a second to think about how things are moving in this application, okay? Because all we've been doing so far, at least, is creating buttons and creating screens and all that stuff. But like, what's the point, though, right? Generally speaking, what's the point? So let me go here. Let's talk about how the data is going to flow here. And frankly, we probably should have done this at the very beginning. Usually, if you're in a team or something, it's nice to know, how the data is gonna look. These things of architecture and all that. We're not gonna cover architecture here. I think you either are going to have a session on that or already had one on that. Okay, But let's just draw some shapes and think about some things. I'm going to lock this shape so it doesn't bother us again. What's actually happening? Well, okay, here's the thing. There's going to be someone. Let me zoom into, oh, okay. Okay, I underestimated how small. There's going to be someone typing in some information. In a general sense, there's this idea of a note that's happening. Okay, there's a note, the idea of a note. Okay, then this idea of a user in our application as well. Okay, idea of a note, idea of a user. These two entities, okay, and your program can have many more entities. Right now, let's focus on these two. The system needs to know, or the application needs to know, how to represent these two people. In other words, what data is attached to them. A note, for example, and I'm going to consult our sketch here. Let's just say a note has a title. Okay. It also has some content. Okay. Note has a title and has content. Okay. Note has a title. I'm just going to note that down and spell correctly. Note has a title. A note also has, okay. Let's see. That also has some content. For those of you wondering what I'm using Excalidraw, which we've seen multiple times or in the past sessions. I happen to be using Excalidraw inside of another application, but you can use Excalidraw in the browser as well. Actually, okay, won't go into that tangent. A note has a title. A note also has some content. Okay. The title and content are words, right? They're just characters. Okay, so I'm going to say, furthermore, this title is a set of characters. Okay, don't worry about that. And the content is also a set of characters. Some of you know the correct terminology for a set of characters, but we don't have to get there right now, okay? Set of characters, in other words, when I'm typing here, I type, maybe the title is, oh, I don't know, something like, this is an encrypted note application. So let's see, what kind of data would you want to encrypt? Maybe, oh, I don't know, account number. Okay, beware where you put your account number, but I promise this is going to be an encrypted note application. So okay, maybe. So the title will be account number and the content would be the actual account number, right? Whatever, something, which looks like a number, but in order for our note application to be robust in accepting all sorts of data, we cannot just say that the content of this note is going to be a number, right? Because it may not be a number, it may be actually something else, right? And so even if I use this bank account example, right, I do not mean that this is a number, right? I just, it's a set of characters. Or the proper name for this is a string. Proper name, I mean, when you're hearing people talk about sets of characters, they're going to say string. Excuse me. Okay, cool. However, let's see, with 4 minutes, let's see, what can we add? However, there's one more thing we're going to add to pretty much all the entities that we're going to construct when you're talking about data storage. So a note has these two things. That is correct. However, are these two things sufficient enough to distinguish one note from another note? Okay. Let's see, in the chat, if I say a note, is it sufficient for me to say a note has a title and content in such a way that this is enough information to make a note unique from some other note? Is this enough information to make this note unique? If you think yes, do Y in the chat. If you think no, do N in the chat. Okay, is this title and content enough to make a note unique from any other note that we're going to have in our application? Let's see. Also, if the question isn't clear, let me know. I think we'll close on this question actually, because it's 3:30 and okay, let's see. All right, I wasn't going to call any names, but Benson, I don't know if your microphone and or keyboard is working. Are these two things sufficient enough to guarantee that that I've described a note in such a way that no other note is going to have the same title and is this enough, or do we need to add something else? Let's see. Anyone? Any takers for this? If there are no takers for this, this is going to be the assignment. Let's see. Any takers for this one? Okay, let's make this the take-home assignment. Okay, when talking about data, the question is, so go think about this question. When I say a note has a title and a content, is this description enough to make sure that any note that I create is not going to be similar to any other note? And think about this. I can have, in this application, I could duplicate this, right? If I have a note with an account number whose title is account number and whose content is this number, I could have another note with the same content. Okay? So if I was relying on just these two facts, it is not enough to guarantee uniqueness, because looky here, I've just created a scenario where these two notes now cannot be distinguished from each other. Okay? When you're creating data stuff like this, make sure you have something else that makes sure that even if these two things are true, from the system's point of view. Okay, Benson is asking me to repeat the question about the node. Okay, we were kind of looking kind of data modeling kind of way, and we're saying that we have two entities, a user and a note, right? This idea of a note. And we've said a note, according to our sketches, has a title and content. In other words, the title of a note can be account number. The content of the note can just be that number, right? So this is like contents of a note, or the title and the content. And the question was, if I say a note only has a title and content, is that sufficient? Are these sufficient properties to make sure that this note is unique, right? Is title and content sufficient enough such that if I have another note, you know, with that title and content, that they will not clash? Are these two sufficient enough for uniqueness from the system's point of view? Okay, so, you know, either yes, they are sufficient, or no, they are not sufficient, right? In other words, do I need to add something else to make this note even more unique than just the title and content? Kind of a long question, and it's okay if the rephrasing was even worse. But yeah, do you have to add something else, or are these two sufficient? I think we'll, let's see. Depending on if Benson gives what he thinks as a yes or no, or unmute of a mic, you know, do I need to add something else? And also for a user, what's a user? Our user has a add something else. Okay, Benson said add something else. Okay. And Benson, are you thinking like some kind of unique ID or something like this? Yes. So Benson says add something else, and he's on the right track, because look, if I have two notes, we're going to end on this. I have two notes. If I duplicate a note, you know, in like your notes app on your phone or whatever, you can duplicate a note. And when you duplicate a note, it literally has the same content. So how does the system know which note is which? The answer is probably each note had a unique ID, all right? Which makes it such that it's not the same as some other note. It may be the same to you in terms of content, but to the system, probably the note was assigned, this note was assigned maybe the value of 189 in the background, and this note was assigned 190. Okay, so it's still unique even if you as a user only see these two things. Okay, so yeah, we'll play around with kind of unique IDs when we continue this data conversation with entities and things. I will see you physically tomorrow, where we may continue this data conversation. I'll try and figure out a way to loop in the online folks if you want to be a part of that. And yeah, so, you know, if you're doing an internship where you have to take notes of what you did, again, the checklist is available on GitHub, and I'm just going to push the current thing. So you can always remind yourself what happened here. All right. Today I'm going to actually be mindful of time and kind of stop here unless you know there's some questions or anything like this. So next time when we meet, we're gonna do complete the form, and then we're gonna submit it to a backend. Okay, after having thought about the data part even more deeply than we have just now. All right. Last call for questions or comments. Those who are new, the recordings exist already, but if you want like a little out of session with me, I can probably figure out some time to do that. Okay, because we want everyone to get caught up, so that's something I can do. I can think about that, but only if you ask for it. Only if you ask for it. But yeah, that being said, I'm going to commit these changes to the notes because I am tracking these. And yeah, that officially that's a day on my end. And let's see. Let me say, oh, a lot has happened. Update checklist. Add drawings. Update screens. Sure. That's everything that happened. Commit and sync. Now the notes are in fact up to date. So you can always go and look at this. All right. I think you can call it a day here. Again, tomorrow, I'll probably be at campus. I'm going to try being there at 10:30-ish in the morning. Okay. But I'll communicate in the WhatsApp group if there's any delays on that as well. But yeah, apart from that, thank you for attending. I hope you learned something. Even if it was just one thing, it's fine. And yeah, we'll continue this when you have the next session. If I think of another take-home assignment, I'll create it and share it as a PDF as well. I saw someone do that, and I was like, that's a good idea. But yeah, we are free to leave now. Not let my continuous talking make it seem like the session is still in progress. It's not. Things have ended. I'm not going to add anything new right now. Actually, let me stop sharing my screen as well. I usually forget to do that. Let's see. Stop that. Yep. So yeah, thanks for coming, guys. I'm gonna, if there's nothing to add on from anyone's side, I think I'll go have lunch because all right, all right. See you all soon. See you all who will be physically present tomorrow soon as well. And yeah, have a nice day. And don't forget to hydrate. All right. Bye.